Welcome all to the 28th of June 2021 Council meeting. I'll now open the meeting officially at 7 o'clock p.m. and I'll pass you over to our Chief Executive who will read out the formalities.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome all. This is an ordinary meeting of Council. My name is Alison Beckwith and I am the Chief Executive Officer. Due to current health requirements, only those submitters who have indicated that they wish to attend in person are in attendance into tonight's meeting. The Council meeting will continue to be live streamed on Council's website and Facebook page. Tonight's Council meeting is based on the current state government directions and masks are to be worn by all attendees. Councillors and members of the public may remove their masks when addressing Council. Submissions this evening will be presented in person, via written statements read out by officers, via pre-recorded videos and pre-recorded audio. Council is prioritising the health, safety and wellbeing of our staff and residents in all our decisions regarding the management of our services during the COVID-19 pandemic. Rules for public participation during tonight's meeting. Please note that any public questions submitted to tonight's Council meeting will be printed in the minutes. Council does not accept questions as part of the request to speak process, and no statement may be derogative, defamatory or directed to an individual councillor, member of staff, ratepayer or member of the public. A 2-minute time limit temporarily applies to all requests to speak items, and the timer will be used and a warning will sound at the 1.5-minute mark for those speaking, and for officers reading out they will be asked to sum up for the last 30 seconds if required to do so. I'll now introduce you to those in attendance tonight. From your left, we have Jeff Glynn, Director of Assets and City Services, Jonathan Risby, Acting Director of City Development, Councillor Mark Di Pasquale, Councillor Elizabeth Neely, Councillor Alida McKern, Councillor Peter Castaldo, the Mayor, Councillor Rick Garotti, Councillor Fiona Mitsonikos, Councillor Tom Malikan, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Alison Champion, Councillor Peter Dimorales, Director of Community Services, Kath Brackett, Director of Corporate Services, Mark Giglio. And to my left, I have Gina Burden, Manager of Governance and Communications. Also here tonight, we have members of the Governance team, IT team and our Jets team coordinating our live stream this evening. We thank you again for tuning into tonight and for adapting with these changing times, and we are continuing to monitor announcements and warnings for the health and safety for all in our community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, CEO. Our meeting is being held on the traditional land of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and on behalf of Banyule City Council, I wish to acknowledge them as our traditional custodians. I'd also like to pay our respects to the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung elders past, present and emerging, and to acknowledge other Aboriginal and Torres Strait elders joining us this evening. Council is committed to and values our diversity, and I'll now read our diversity statement that demonstrates this commitment. We're a diverse community made up of people from different cultures, beliefs, abilities, bodies, ages, sexualities, genders and identities. We are committed to inclusion, access and equity for everyone. These principles foster cohesiveness, empower people and improve the well-being of our community. Would any councillor like to advise of any leave of absence? No? Now move on to the confirmation of the minutes for the meeting held on the 7th of June 2021. I have a councillor move, Councillor Di Pasquale, and seconded Councillor Dimorales. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? And those against? I declare the motion carried. Are there any disclosures of interest this evening? No? Later this evening, we'll have a short video appear on item 4.1 regarding the power purchase agreement, and that'll help explain the agreement. There will also be a presentation before the consideration of the budget. There is no urgent business this evening. And we move on to item 2.1, petition, Montmorency Community Hub. And we have 3 speakers, and I'll now invite each speaker to the lectern. Our first speaker, Glenise Michelson, Montmorency. Please come forward, Denise.
Good evening. I'm Glenise Michelson of 9 Margaret Avenue, Montmorency. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak in support of the proposed Montmorency Community Hub, situated in the site of the former Montmorency Eltham Uniting Church at the corner of Mountain View and Rattray Road. I'm a long-time resident of Montmorency and have lived in Montmorency since 1965 and in the Eltham district since 1947. I'm also a member of the Montmorency and Eltham Uniting Church. I will begin with a saying: for every time there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. And I am firmly a belief that it is now time to have the Montmorency Community Hub situated on this site. I will be speaking on behalf of the ratepayers of Montmorency and surrounds, as I have gained their confidence as have been involved in so many local issues that they have been concerned over. One was the proposed closure of the local Montmorency Primary School, but through great pressure from the community, it was saved and is now a flourishing school. The first concern raised by the community was the false assumption put forward by the council planning department that this site was not in the centre of Montmorency. This was not seen to be true, as it is in the heart of Montmorency. It is in a prominent central position, close to the village shopping centre, the primary school, the rail and bus transport, and the neighbouring RSL and Petrie Park. It was a meeting place in the past when it was a church, and it was a convenient position, and it has many, many activities held there. The annual church fete, which was attended by the locals and others in the surrounding area. It had many activities, group activities, youth groups, yoga classes, gym classes, first aid classes, dance classes, forums, and so many other activities going on there. This site offers, by its convenient position, there's many options for group activities to happen, as did in the past, and it is a great meeting place where all diverse groups in the community can meet and participate in so many worthwhile activities. Another false assumption is that people of Montmorency do not want this project to go ahead. This is not true, as Montmorency does want this to happen. The assumption was made that there seemed to be a very low uptake of shares that were being offered.
Glenise,
However,
may I ask you to sum up as your time's lapsed?
Oh, nearly gone, has it?
Yes.
Well, all I want to say is that the slow uptake was because the residents mainly were young, middle-aged people with huge mortgages, high cost of living, and insecurity of employment, so they felt that they could not afford at that time to take up the shares. The other group were the pensioners and self-funded retirees who were getting low interest on their investments. This group too felt, and they all felt, that the council had a responsibility, rather than spend the $2 million on upgrading the West Street precinct, to use it for that. The people of Montmorency and its surrounds would like to work cooperatively with the Council to see that this so worthwhile project succeeds, as it will bring much benefit to everybody living in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenace. Our next speaker is Johannes Hans Gregory of Montmorency. Hans, if you're here, please come forward.
Hi, excuse me for reading. My name's Hans Gregory. We're strongly in support of a community hub at the former Monty Uniting Church site. We love our passionate, strong and caring community, but Montmorency is without a community centre, a hub or a place for all. I look across Banyule and I see most suburbs with council-supported community facilities. Apart from formal sporting facilities or halls for hire, Montmorency really doesn't have any community houses, neighbourhood houses or libraries. I'm a practising youth worker with nearly 40 years' experience. In Elthamshire, I was a youth outreach worker for 6 or 7 years, and I was often working in Weir Street and in local parks. Now I've been working City of Whittlesea for 23 years. I'm really passionate about young people and their needs. And I suppose the question is, what is a municipal responsibility to our young people, and what is that responsibility to community? So the quote that I've sort of taken on over my period of being a youth worker is, if we don't actively write young people into community, then by definition and default, we're actually writing them out of community. Even Banyule Youth Services staff are limited to the tools that are provided to them. Where do they link with community, with the Montmorency community, to run programs, to run projects in this local area? If there's no hub and there are limited local opportunities, I think we're sort of writing young people out of community. The strength of the hub is its value to all ages, to teach community values, to support and involve all community life. An intergenerational example from Doreen was young people that taught tech skills to older people, which actually ended up being a huge thing during the COVID lockdown. We're asking Banyule to support this impressive and community-led community hub initiative, support us in obtaining this valuable central historical Alastair Knox designed resource for ongoing community use, to retain the feel and streetscape of that lovely central corner of Monty. Council supporting the community who are banded together, financially investing, and who continue to establish and run groups and activities for our residents would be really well received. Thank you. Ta.
Thank you, Hans. Our third speaker, Andrew Tupper of Montmorency. Please come forward, Andrew.
Thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of the Montmorency Community Hub project team. Thank you to councillors, including to Alison, and thank you to council officers, including to Alison, for the conversation so far on this project. I have a big prop. This is the Sustainable Community Plan that was developed in 2010 by the Montmorency Community Group. They mapped out the future of Montmorency as they saw it, and in 2021 they envisaged a Montmorency Community Hub, somewhere on this, occurring as a common meeting space for the reasons that I think that Glenis and Hans have eloquently advanced. Imagine if we could deliver this on time in 2021. We have our governance sorted. We have over 142 financial contributors and many more supporters. We've raised over 520k so far. We have 1.5 million in bridging finance. If Council commits prior to the August settlement to our 7th of June request of 650k over 5 years, this project will fly. We appreciate as ratepayers ourselves that you will have concerns about risks, but there are also great opportunities here. This is a community-led initiative that directly supports many council priorities. It would be an amazing marquee project for council and community. It's a risk worth taking in our opinion, and that's why a growing number of people are putting so much time and resource into it. We ask not only that you accept the petition, but that you facilitate a process where we can meet together and satisfy you about the risks and benefits of your investment prior to the next council meeting in July. We all have our own reasons for being in the project. For me, I've lived and travelled across the world, but the most exciting place for me right now is a suburb where my great-grandfather Davey had a dairy farm, because in Montmorency, the community is reinventing itself in a positive, healthy way during a time of great societal stress and change. I really hope that you can support this. We look forward to speaking further with you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for that, Andrew. Much appreciated. So, councillors, we have a recommendation, and I believe there might be a fourth point to that. Councillor Champion, will you move and take us through?
Thank you very much, Mayor. So the recommendation has an addition, which is a little bit different from other petitions that have come through in the past. So points 1, 2 and 3 as is. Point number 4, meet with the recommendation is that Council meets with the Monty Community Hub organisers to help identify program opportunities. So moved.
Thank you, Councillor. And a seconder, Councillor Neely. Councillor Champion, you wish to speak? Thank you.
I will. I don't normally speak to an item of a petition. All we do is accept petitions, so I don't normally speak. However, this is an incredibly significant project in my ward that deserves to be spoken to. So I would like to start by thanking everybody in the community who has written to me and rung me directly and has written to our officers directly. What's been really significant about this particular petition is that every single person who has written or spoken has written their own words. There is nothing that has been copied and pasted except my response, just of acknowledgement. And all of you have written with your heart and your history, your knowledge, you've shared that with us, and you have also written with your heads. And not everybody supports this. So I've got head, heart and history. I would particularly like to congratulate the Monty Hub organisers of their progress so far. It's been absolutely brilliant. So they've actually already raised $1.4 million in total and are looking for another $650,000. And they're doing that through a variety of ways. Many of you in Montmorency have received a letterbox drop. You've probably received 2, at least 2 by now, if not 3. I got my 3rd in the mail today. Now, I want to make something clear about that letterbox drop. That is not just for you as that resident of that home. I and councillors and the Monty Hub organisers, we are asking you to visit your networks. Who in your network would also have an interest in this community hub and support it, whose values align? So think a bit bigger than your own space, than your own small space. I welcome Council's investigation into this. It is ongoing. In December, Councillor Liz Neely brought forward a notice of motion to ask council officers to investigate a framework around community spaces within Banyule. So that notice of motion, the work around that is ongoing. And it covers not just the heart of a space, but it also covers and considers things like the governance, planning, as in property planning, financial strategy, and community programs and the needs of those in a space. So I welcome a meeting or a conversation with the organisers in the very near future to discuss this further, and thank everybody again for all that they have contributed to this space today so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Neely, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, just to say thank you to all the residents that have also emailed me, and looking forward to hearing more about it from Councillor Champion. Thank you.
Does any other councillor wish to speak on this item? No, I'll now put the motion forward. All those in favour? And those against? Declare the motion carried. The next item of business is 4.1, Power Purchase Agreement, commencement of a 100% green power. But before we move on, we will now get a presentation video.
Banyule City Council has a goal to be a zero emissions organisation by 2028. When we were developing our plan to reach this goal, we found that our electricity use was where most of our emissions came from. So we set out to tackle this first. In partnership with 46 councils, we formed Australia's largest ever local government buying group to switch to renewable energy. It's called VECO, the Victorian Energy Collaboration. This collaboration project involved working with a renewable energy generator to come up with an agreement which will see Banyule and the other VECO councils be provided with renewable energy for the next 9 years. This agreement gives certainty to the generator that the energy they produce will be bought and to the organisation on what price they will pay. It also means that we can ensure we are investing in renewable power, dramatically reducing our emissions and creating jobs. For Banyule, this means that almost 100% of our organisational electricity will be coming from 2 wind farms in Western Victoria, one in Dundonnell and one in Murrawarra. This will see emissions arising from Banyule's electricity use drop by 56%. As if this wasn't good enough, there are other benefits coming out of this project. The wind farms are creating jobs in the regional towns where they are located, both during construction and ongoing operations. They are also supporting their local communities by contributing to upgrades of facilities and support for community initiatives and events. This is a huge step on our journey to be zero emissions by 2028. If you want to know more about this amazing project, visit banyule.vic.gov.au/PPA.
Sorry, I've lost my train of thought here. That's a terrific presentation. Thank you to our officers for preparing. So we're on to item 4.1, PPA, commencement of 100% green power. We don't have any speakers this evening, and we do have a recommendation on our papers. I'm looking for a councillor to move. Moved Councillor Castaldo, and seconded Councillor McKern. Councillor Castaldo, over to you.
As the video said, this is a very important step forward. This power purchase agreement is a great announcement for the entire renewable energy industry. It is an important step in moving our council and our community forward towards zero emissions future. It will reduce risk exposure as the electricity market transitions from predominantly coal-fired generation to renewable energy and bring down costs from the business as usual approach. Unlike our federal government, we have a plan, a target and a methodology in place to deliver zero emissions future, and it will lead to lower costs and more Victorian jobs. The local government sector getting involved in this project provides clear support to the energy market and industry looking to invest in renewables. and assists the necessary momentum needed to clean the Victorian grid up off brown coal. This is such an important step and complements our maximise local solar strategy. The rest of the strategy. There is still a long way to go and plenty for this council to work on as we transition the rest of the community, making our own renewable energy in our municipality and encouraging other renewables to be connected to the grid statewide. Thank you to all the organisations that contributed to this, such as NAGA and the lead council, Darebin, council officers, and to my fellow councillors. This was a marathon effort, an historic event that has taken years to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McKern.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not only is this council involved in this agreement and power purchase agreement, 46 other regional and metropolitan councils are involved. As my colleague Councillor Castaldo mentioned, this is part of the momentum to reduce carbon emissions, and it is good to see that traction is happening. We thought that the public may be interested to know just where these carbon emission savings will be occurring in terms of Banyul's infrastructure. It will occur in Banyul-owned facilities where we pay the utility bills, and examples include 1 Flintoff Street, the Ivanhoe Library and Cultural Hub, the Operations Depot, the mall, Net Stadium and public lighting. It also includes most sporting clubs that are on a seasonal licence where we pay for the electricity and then on-cost this to the club, various clubs. It's an opportunity too to mention how you as residents can also be involved. We've talked about Solar Savers. It's a program that includes a number of councils and is active in Banyul. We could do with a lot more take-up of residents on Solar Savers. So if you're interested in how you can get solar power on your roof, please contact our Community Energy Officer either through Council's website or customer service. We welcome your call. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak on this item? Councillor Neely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to note with the presentation that it was a really good summary of the report. If you haven't read the report, you know, it was a very entertaining way to know what was happening. It would be maybe a good idea for maybe that to happen for all council items. Just, yeah. I liked the use of the polar bear as well. No, just to be quick, this is just a great example of the electricity market transitioning from coal-fired energy to renewable energy. So, yeah, it's well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor? Look, I might just briefly take the opportunity to thank and acknowledge the contribution that Councillor Peter Castaldo had in bringing this to Council and steering it through. And I think it's worth highlighting that this is actually going to save Council money. Not great money, but it will be saving us money. So not only are we transitioning all of our electricity needs to renewable sources, as Councillor Castaldo pointed out, boosting investment in Victorian wind farms, creating Victorian jobs. We're actually also saving the ratepayer money year in, year out. So that ticks every box. And I personally didn't believe that was possible, that you could enter into a PPA like this and save the ratepayer money. I thought that we as a council would be paying more. And Peter Castaldo sold us on the vision and assured us as a council that we should look at this route seriously, that it not only stacks up environmentally but also financially. and he's turned out to be right. So it's a collective council decision, of course, and tremendous work from our officers, Scott Walker, Darren Bennett, who's now been promoted within the organisation, and Sian Gleeson, the Manager of Environment and Climate. But these things often don't happen without leadership from the top, and the leadership has been driven on this council from Councillor Castaldo. So well done, celebrate this success, and thank you for helping to put this council now on firmly the road to achieving our very bold target of being carbon neutral by 2028. Do you wish to sum up?
Yeah, just briefly. This contract kicks off in just 3 days. So in 3 days, we've halved our emissions intensity. So it's an exciting moment. Took a long time and brought a lot of councils together, and I think we're doing a good job here. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item of business is 5.1, the adoption of the road management plan. Oh, sorry. I think I've got to put that motion forward. All those in favour and those against, I hereby declare the motion carried. Thank you, CEO. Moving on to item 5.1, the adoption of the Road Management Plan 2021. We have one speaker, and a written statement will now be read on behalf of Jenny Mulholland OAM, and who I will note is a former councillor and mayor of the City of Banyule, by our Director, Mark Gilio, Director of Corporate Services. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm supporting this report and congratulate council engineers in preparing this review of the plan from 2017, the first road management plan occurring in 2004. It is now up to council to support it with sufficient funding. However, as previously raised with council, the level of funding for footpaths throughout the city, and in particular the older suburbs in the southern parts of the city, is currently inadequate and progressively getting worse. The report highlights that almost 20% of the footpaths surveyed throughout the city were in poor condition. This issue was highlighted in a recent Channel 9 News expose show showing the plight of the disabled Banyule resident trying to use her wheelchair on cracked and lifted footpaths in the city. A question for officers: has council quantified the monetary terms, the dollar amount to bring these 20% poor footpaths up to at least a satisfactory standard? Is this 2 million, 10 million, 50 million or 100 million? Without this figure, how can councils make a rational decision on the level of expenditure to fix these poor footpaths that is required? The report also states there's an increase of from 1.38 million in 2018-19 to 2 million in 2019-20 and 2021 on footpath expenditure. However, I note that the council has decreased its footpath funding level in this year's budget to $1.5 million, and albeit thanks to a once-off grant from the Morrison federal government of $2.5 million, the overall funding for footpaths for this year is $4 million. However, if council was serious about improving footpaths across the city, wouldn't they have at least matched the federal grant on a dollar-for-dollar basis? Footpaths provide an important service to all Banyule residents. Poor footpaths result in more insurance claims as more residents, particularly the elderly and disabled, suffer trips and falls on poor footpaths.
Thank you, Director. So, councillors, we have a recommendation on our papers. Councillor Malek. Oh, sorry, Councillor, go for it.
Yes, I'd like to ask a question of the Director, Jeff Klim, please. The Speaker talked about the allocation of funds from the federal government. Were those funds allocated tied to footpaths, or was that a decision this council made to allocate those funds to footpaths?
Through you, Mayor, Council made a decision to allocate that money towards the footpaths, so increase the funding. And I think you'll find in the report there's a bit of a detail in the report around funding for footpaths and how Council's going to increase that over the next 4 years by up to a total of about $18.15 million. Over the next 4 years will go towards footpath renewal and maintenance, and that's an increase of $6.6 million over that 4-year period going towards footpath maintenance.
And will we be doing another audit to ascertain whether this extra funding we've allocated has fixed the problem with this 20% of the footpaths being in poor condition?
Again, through you, Mayor, in the report it highlights that we're going to be undertaking a full audit of all our footpaths in the 21-22 financial year, and that'll give us an indication of the total condition, which will then inform Council's budgets going forward.
Looking for a councillor to move. Councillor Di Pasquale, and a seconder. Councillor Di Morales. Councillor Di Pasquale.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just like to take the opportunity to move this item. I think it's amazing. Thank you very much to Director Jeff Glynn and his team. I remember years and years ago, Mayor, we actually did send down the cameras down every footpath in Banyule and logged all the state of every single footpath and, you know, how it was functioning, where all the cracks were, etc. And then it was put into a program. We always knew over the years, Mayor, as you and I have been councillors for some time now, that it was actually the funds needed to renew the footpaths was short. We understood that. And not only that, there's a thing that's occurring, Mayor, especially in estates that were cut up in the 60s and 70s, sometimes the inappropriate trees are planted on the nature strips, Mayor, and we've got, you know, trees like gum trees and, you know, I think back in the 70s we think it would be quite innocuous to plant a gum tree on a nature strip because we want to plant as many trees as we possibly can, but those gum trees have become too big in some instances and they're actually pushing up and continually pushing up footpaths. So part of the renewal process is replacing those cracked footpaths that lift, etc. But as the trees continue to grow, it continues to happen. So it is a continued problem. So when we ran the machinery down the footpaths a few years ago now, a lot of trees have grown since then, a lot of root systems have grown since then, so that's even changed as well. So that's why, as you've heard, Director, we're going to be doing it again in the 21-22 year. So we as a council have a couple of things which we need to be thinking about. Tonight we're voting on upwards of over $18 million input into our footpaths municipality-wide over the next 4 years. That's huge investment. Mayor, I'm sure you get many emails and phone calls like I do that footpaths are a big concern. So we are listening and we are investing very heavily in them now. But as a councillor group and as a council too, we do need to understand what we are going to do with these large trees. We have a couple of options. We either, you know, just keep replacing the footpath around them and let these trees continue to grow, or in some instances we can take the tree down and replant a more appropriate tree. Now, having said that, Mayor, we are planting thousands of trees in our municipality, and we've been doing that over the last couple of years, and we have many more years that we are going to be doing that. So we're taking it on faith that those trees that are going into the nature strips outside of residents' homes are the appropriate trees that won't grow too big in 20 or 30 or 40 years' time. Because if that's the case, we're going to have huge issues or further issues with footpaths. So, Director, I'm assured that we are planting the right trees in the right locations. They're not going to be growing too big. I know there was a bit of an investigation into that, but yeah, these are some things that we as a councillor group are going to have to talk about over the next couple of years as we implement this $18 million. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Di Morales. Does any other councillor wish to speak? No? Look, I might just briefly acknowledge the comments from our speaker, and we'll certainly take them on board as a council when we review our rolling 4-year budget. So making sure that we're optimising our investment in all asset classes is important, and I think some good queries for council to consider have been raised, and I certainly appreciate that. And I think as Councillor Di Pasquale touched on, it's $18 million over 4 years, which is about $4.5 million a year. I think when Mark and I were elected, close to our total capital works program for everything was almost $5 million a year. So the fact that we've been able to grow the capital base to such an extent is a good tribute to us all and to the work of officers and councillors. But evidently there's more to be done, and we'll certainly factor that into our future thinking. I'll now put that motion forward. All those in favour? And against? I declare the motion carried. Our next item of business is 5.2 temporary outdoor dining parklets. And we have 5 speakers. I'll now invite our first speaker to the lectern, John Milhildias. John, please come forward.
Hi, I'm John from Sue So Good, 231 Upper Heidelberg Road, and I'm for the parklets. Parklets have been introduced all over the world due to COVID. COVID is not going away, as you can see all over Australia. New cases are breaking out everywhere. In Melbourne, we've already been locked down 4 times, I think. People need access to somewhere where they can go and sit and feel safe. Who knows how many more times we will be locked down in the next 12 months. We, as in the parklet in front of my shop, there's 3 shops, we've created ours as a community area where people can use whether they are purchasing anything or not. We've spent about $10,000 approximately. We put in backheads, fairy lights, green turf, so it really looks nice. And we leave our furniture outside so people can use them even though when we're closed. Even today, people had access to the parklet. The majority of councils around us have already decided to extend their parklets for another 12 months because the community has really embraced and enjoyed them. And they have access to safe seating outside. Apartments are being built all around Upper Heidelberg Road. The majority of people in these apartments are young urban people who are looking for entertainment and for places to eat in their local strip. They are looking for their local strip to have a great vibe and to be able to enjoy themselves. As most times, we are restricted by the government on how far we can travel. The demographics are changing in the area and we need to embrace that and make sure people are still able to enjoy their local community. Unfortunately, COVID doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon, and it would be remiss of the council to take away the parklets now when we really need them, and the government keeps promoting outdoor dining. The government thought that COVID would be under control by the 30th of June 2021, and that's why we're here tonight. But COVID is still here, and we still need outdoor dining for the community. Now is not the time to get rid of parklets. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Our next speaker is Marianne Kofi, and a written statement will now be read on her behalf by Director Julia.
Dear Banyule Council, Mayor and Councillors, as previously expressed to Councillor Castaldo, Eaglemont Village is keen to keep the parklet in our strip. We have received very good feedback on the council initiative, not least from business it is outside Eaglemont Cellars. Some of the benefits and feedback are listed below. Good to be outside and be al fresco like Europe, extremely popular and frequented by locals. Materials used were good quality and support circular economy, which the local community appreciates. The look and feel is pleasing and creates interest in the street and is in keeping with the area. Resulted in more foot traffic to Eaglemont Cellars and Eaglemont Village. Used as an activity for Eaglemont Market to make Mother's Day cards. The pandemic has presented the best opportunity we will see for transformative change in our streets. There is huge scope for imaginative design and planning as we explore the possibilities. As we spend more time closer to home during the pandemic, having an outdoor parklet is another reason people congregate, and that has been in autumn and winter. Imagine the opportunity in spring and summer. Don't stop it now. Fully supported extending the parklets in Eaglemont Village. Of note, Eaglemont Village was not initially deemed a suitable place for parklets. However, we fought for it, and it is a resounding success as we go through a time of great change. It was Henry Ford who said when he manufactured the automobile, if I had asked them what they wanted, they would have said faster cars. says faster cars. We would like to thank Council for rolling this out, an example of Council being innovative and future-focused. As you may know, Milan reimagined 30 piazzas in 2020 and 2021 from places of cars to places for people, and children popped up immediately, showing what is possible in our suburbs. You may, and possibly the most well-known is Amsterdam, who transferred itself in the 1970s and 80s from car-lined streets to bikes. To my knowledge, all other councils in Melbourne plan to keep their parklets too, indicating the opportunity they bring. Egremont Village are also happy to be used as a case study for the benefit of Banyule Council and share all our feedback and learnings with you.
Thank you, Director. Our next speaker is Amelia Larkey from the Little Black Pig and Sons, and a written statement will be read out by Director Glynn.
The significant benefits of the temporary outdoor dining parklet include: 1. The ability to seat more diners with required density limits due to increased floor space. 2. Community appreciation of our temporary outdoor dining parklet, with many customers commenting on the improvement to the streetscape. 3. Increased options for local diners with more seats available due to outdoor dining. Other future significant benefits to temporary outdoor dining parklets could provide include: 1. Sharing of our parklet space with other local businesses when the assigned business is closed, for example, pop-up shops. 2. Sharing the parklet space with neighbouring businesses when the assigned business is closed, for example, a meeting space. 3. Community benefits, including local business cohesion and collaboration. 4. Added benefits include increased visibility for the assigned business when their parklet is shared. Little Black Pig and Sons is happy to contribute to the cost of a temporary outdoor dining parklet with the following conditions. 1. We would require the ability to decide which months of the year the parklet is structured. This is due to the parklet being a seasonal seating arrangement. Winter months in Melbourne are not suitable for outdoor dining, no matter how many umbrellas and heaters are erected. I recommend a monthly arrangement whereby business can select to have a parklet on or off depending on the seasonal nature of their business. Number 2, better conditions within the parklet itself. In our temporary outdoor dining parklet, there are oil stains on the road. We don't have any boards to flatten the surface of the road, and there is no ramp on any part of the curb, resulting in no disability access and increased the risk of injury to staff and customers. If businesses were to contribute funds towards their temporary outdoor dining parklets, businesses would require that the parklets be set up properly and safely. And 3, speed of erection and dismantling.
Thank you, Director. Our fourth speaker this evening is Raghib Heeb Al-Bay from the Alleyway Cafe in Heidelberg, and Kath Brackett will now read a statement.
Firstly, I will always be grateful to the government and local council, as their decision to add parklets in front of cafes has allowed many businesses like mine to begin to recoup the financial deficit that we experienced during last year's lockdown. The government's involvement assisted hospitality businesses financially, as well as providing a safe place to gather and repair the community socially. While the extra seating has begun to rectify the above, further snap lockdowns and restrictions have been put in place recently and may become more severe again in the near future to medium future. With this in mind, having a large spatial area, in particular outdoors and distance appropriately, would accommodate to government restrictions and the comfort of our customers so that they can safely enjoy a social outing. Furthermore, the parklet itself has created a lively feel to the street. We've noticed that as outdoor exercise importance increases, there's been an exponential amount of bike riders and dog walkers. Despite the increased foot traffic, this hasn't inhibited the ability for the general public to park or access any surrounding shop fronts, as there are many quiet side streets with parking, as well as other large car parks behind Leo's Supermarket and on Cartmel Street. When Conversation Caravan came to conduct a survey with locals, we noticed that the feedback from regular customers and surrounding local business and owners was extremely positive, and the words safe, fun and pretty were used most. There were also suggestions for outdoor heating, plants and a marquee. Depending on seasons and trends, we hope to be able to transform the area into a sight to behold for the street. Lastly, based on the benefits that the parklet provides directly to our businesses, the auxiliary benefits to surrounding businesses, and most importantly, the recouping of our social community, we believe strongly that there's too much to gain by extending the initiative or making it a permanent structure on our street.
Thank you, Director. And our fifth speaker this evening on this item is David Zanofsky from the Ivanhoe Traders Association, and a video will now play.
Councillors, council officers, good evening. The ITA has voted unanimously that we do not want the council-led 12-month extension of parklets on Upper Heidelberg Road. The reasoning behind state government funding and recommending the parklets in the first place in 2020 was to give those hospitality businesses with very small internal floor space the ability to have seated service, albeit outdoors, due to harsh density restrictions imposed at the height of COVID restrictions. It was communicated to us that the parklets that have removed 10 car parks on Upper Heidelberg Road were for a finite period, 30 June 2021. The restrictions that were in place at the height of COVID restrictions in 2020 are no longer in place and are not expected to return. That is, hospitality density restrictions are far less restrictive at present, and those once affected businesses are now permitted to have internal seating. Therefore, the fundamental purpose of parklets no longer exists. They would simply give those businesses with parklets, existing or new, an added windfall to the detriment of other businesses by way of significantly reduced car parks on Upper Heidelberg Road. The businesses that have parklets to date have received the intended benefit. So now it is only fair that they be removed to allow the rest of the street to be able to conduct their business without further pressure on the removal of precious and valuable car parks. The ITA's primary role is to protect the interests of all its members. The imbalance that has already been created by the two current parklets and the very real potential for more parklets to emerge goes squarely against this fundamental role. It's also worth mentioning that Council used its discretion, some may say discrimination, in rejecting granting a third proposed parklet requested by 3 neighbouring traders, mainly due to the protests of another outraged trader. The current arrangement imposed on Upper Heidelberg Road has created an unhealthy divide amongst traders. The ITA...
Mr Zanofsky ran out of time, so that concludes our speakers for the evening. I understand we have a motion. Well, sorry, Councillor, you have a question?
Yeah, Mayor, may I ask a question just to the appropriate officer? Just going through the speakers, I understand where they're from. David Zanofsky of the Ivanhoe Traders Association, does the officer know his role in the association?
Through you, Mayor, I believe he's the president.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? No? I believe we have a motion, or struggling to get it up on the screen. And I was relying on the screen for our recommendation. There we are. So do we have a mover? And can the mover also take us through the addition? Councillor McKern?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The additional amendment is that Council engage with key stakeholders, including trader associations, the Department of Transport, shoppers and residents, to evaluate the parklets over the next 12 months.
Thank you, Councillor. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Castaldo. Councillor McKern, do you wish to speak? Yes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to address the parklets in particular, for they have well and truly captured people's imagination, as you can tell by the speakers. Temporary outdoor parklets were introduced last year as a state government initiative to help local business survive the impact of COVID restrictions. First, for the benefit of those who may not be aware, parklets are footpath extensions into parking bays, enabling greater use of the footpath for street activities such as outdoor seating and dining, both for public and private use. In Banyule, 7 parklets were installed in shopping strips in Heidelberg, Eaglemont and Ivanhoe earlier this year, in line with councils all across Melbourne that have provided traders with assistance such as waived permit fees and provision of outdoor dining parklets. Council's recent review of extended footpath trading and parklets did reveal mixed results. On the positive side, a high percentage of respondents had visited a parklet, I believe it was around 73%, and reported that they really enjoyed being able to help support business stay open during COVID, enjoyed the convenience of being able to dine out close to home, and that the experience of dining in a parklet provided a feeling of community and connection to the neighbourhood. Possibly, Mr Mayor, one of the most important positive impacts is the increased number of pedestrian and shoppers to our strip shopping centres. That's what was reported. This is an important statistic, for as one trader recently commented to me, it is people who are the biggest attractors of people to a shopping strip. On the downside, the review revealed trader concern regarding reduction of parking bays and the belief from traders that there has been reduced number of customer for businesses with no parklet. I want traders to know that I do take your concerns seriously, as do all the councillors. This is why, as Ward Councillor for the Ivanhoe area, I attended a recent meeting with representatives of the Ivanhoe Traders Association and followed up with one-on-one discussions with traders on Upper Heidelberg Road. In response to concerns raised at the meeting regarding temporary loss of 10 parking bays, I think it's really important that traders and shoppers appreciate that there is an abundance of 6,000 parking bays within close walking distance to the Ivanhoe shops. If I could just another minute longer, please, Mr Mayor. Well above the average allocation of parking for a strip shopping centre. I'm informed by our transport team that during peak usage, only 3,000 of these parking spaces are being used. I ask you to consider this, fellow councillors, in light of about 10 parking bays being used to support local business through COVID. I think it also needs to be appreciated that COVID is still impacting local business. COVID is still with us and lockdowns continue to happen. Parklets are a means whereby council can continue to provide support to local business. In light of concerns raised by some traders, this is why we've added an amendment that council continue to evaluate these parklets over the next 12 months. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. And does our seconder wish to speak? Councillor Castaldo.
I'd like to thank all speakers this evening for their contributions and also Alida for that good description of why we benefit from them. The Outdoor Dining Initiative is one of the many actions Council has taken in collaboration with the state government to entice people out of their homes and support the local economies. Tonight we are voting on extending the temporary spaces for an additional 12 months and providing them at no cost to the retailers. As the report says, it has general community support, and in particular those that directly benefit. In the longer term, it will be important for us to invest and create better environments to attract the community into our shopping strips, keeping them vibrant and adapting to changing needs in our community, where socialisation options are closer to home and focused around food, drinks and cafe culture of the city, but here in Banyule. The current temporary options that are temporary are not permanent. They're not perfect and can do with further improvements. I've spoken with trader associations in Eaglemont and Heidelberg who have participated in this program, and they're both generally supportive of this, as well as comments made by other people in passing in the street. So I'm fully supportive of continuing this program.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Neely.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just listening to traders throughout the municipality highlights that dining parklets not only help businesses stay afloat, but provide personal health and safety for people. Comments like, dining in the fresh air takes away concern about COVID-19. And for many residents who go out to eat and socialise, they want to feel connected to the neighbourhood as well. Due to government restrictions and, I guess, lack of certainty as to what will happen with the pandemic in the next year, keeping businesses viable is still the main goal here, which is why I support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other Councillor Champion? Councillor Di Pasquale.
Thank you, Mayor. It's just gathering my thoughts. Something's not making sense to me. It's quite unprecedented that we have the President of a Traders Association who is coming to Council from a unanimous decision that they do not want the parklets. And yet we have a recommendation that states that it is well received, accepted, should be extended. And in our previous discussions too, we were thinking on the surface, well, obviously it's going to help invigorate businesses. Why isn't it going to be extended? Something's not making sense to me, Mayor, and when it comes down to the President of the Traders Association, we do need to have a little bit of a think that we do spend ratepayers' money and we do give it to the traders under a special rates scheme where the traders of that area, of that trading strip, can make contributions, and then it's a special rate, and then council will match that. We've actually got the Heidelberg traders coming up tonight as the next agenda item, I believe, Mayor. So council is also funding the traders' cut of that over the COVID period. So council is paying 100% of that special rates levy. And we're also deciding tonight on whether to allocate another $36,050 to waive the permit fees allocated to this, plus whatever other costs there are with regards to these parklets. Something's not making sense to me, Mayor, and if that's the case, we need to be having a little bit of a deeper conversation about what's happening with the Traders Associations and where that's going over the next years, 5 to 10 years. Because if we're not in a situation where we can simply go to the Traders Association president, no less, and say, what is the best thing for all the traders here? And if he comes back and says to us that unanimously we have voted for not having the parklets there, that speaks volumes to me in comparison to any shopper walking up and down that strip for their convenience. So I think we need to be having a little bit more of a think about what we're doing as a council, because I wouldn't necessarily be wanting this to be happening in the Greensborough area or, you know, an area within my area of the municipality where I'm looking after the traders and the associations, etc. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Mitsonikos.
Sorry, the parklets seem like a great addition to busy dining areas. They're great for businesses and it gives them the opportunity to continue trading with their required numbers to keep their businesses profitable while also being COVID safe, which is obviously super important. The outdoor dining parklets are giving local businesses another way to stay open, and personally I don't want to see any more cafes and restaurants closing, because it's great to be able to go out in a COVID safe way and enjoy a nice dinner out. Yeah, we need to continue supporting businesses during these challenging times, and this is another way that council is helping to do that.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Champion.
Thank you, Mayor. There are obviously a variety of interpretations of this report, just hearing everybody speaking, and a lot of angles to come from. The way I read this is that this is an opportunity to continue to support the hospitality sector, which is one that was quite frankly hammered during the COVID restrictions, quite unnecessarily, in February for 5 days, which had two major calendar events, Chinese New Year and Valentine's Day, that didn't happen. It was a good possibility to recover. for these businesses, and that didn't happen for them. So the way I read this, we're encouraging our hospitality outlets to continue to function, providing additional space at a lower fee. We're waiving the permit fees, and encourage them to quite simply get back on track in their business and their lifestyle. So there are key reasons why I would be supporting this recommendation, and I do believe that we do still need to continue to be in conversation and effective communication with all parties. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And does any other councillor wish to speak? No? Well, I'll put the motion forward. All those in favour and those against, declare the motion carried. Next item of business 5.3, consideration of submissions and objections for the Heidelberg Central Shopping Precinct special charge. We note that this item was part of a statutory process under section 223 of the Local Government Act, where submitters have the opportunity to speak to the item. There are 2 speakers in support of their submission. A pre-recorded video will now play of Kimberly Martini speaking on the item, followed by a written statement on behalf of Paul Keys that will be read out by Director of Corporate Services Mark Gilio. We'll now hear from Kimberly.
My name's Kimberly Martini. I've had a business on Burgundy Street in Heidelberg for the last 10 years. I've also been an active member in the Traders Association for the last 10 years. This levy is incredibly important to the area. It's vital for allowing all of our things that bring prosperity and acknowledgement of everything that's going on to the area. It brings droves of people in and keeps it really community focused, which is really important for us to keep our clients loyal to the area. Also means that things look amazing and that we have the look and feel that we need for the street to keep our clients coming back and our customers coming back. Without it, we wouldn't be the business we are, and we wouldn't have the people in the area coming in that we do. So to me and my business, it's incredibly important, and we support it 100%.
Kevin Hill, Ivanhoe. I speak on behalf of Banyule Ratepayers Action Group to oppose.
We got a sneak peek of the next speaker on the next item.
We would like to take this opportunity to thank Banyule Council for the support over the last 24 months, especially over the last 12 months, which has seen many local businesses and the community tackle the additional challenges of the pandemic has brought. The actions of the Banyule Council and the Economic Division have been greatly appreciated. Many business owners have turned to the Association for assistance during this difficult time, and the sense of support and community has been comforting to many. As a collective, the business owners have found the Heidelberg Traders Association a source of great value, not only in the past 24 years we've been in existence, but especially during the pandemic. The additional marketing and promotions, as well as information and practical assistance, has given business owners more confidence in the future prosperity, the area and ongoing viability of businesses' continuing success. It has been made evident during the renewal process that the large majority of local businesses and landlords support for the special rate charge to continue. We as a collective would like to express our desire to have our special rate charge renewed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Director. We have a recommendation on our papers. May I have a councillor move? Questions first. Councillor Di Pasquale.
May I just ask a question of the appropriate officer? The number of businesses in the Heidelberg area, if that's known, roundabout, and then also how many of those businesses are actually active members in the Traders Association of Heidelberg? Thank you, Mayor.
Director, and you may have to take it on notice.
Through you, Mayor. The first answer to the question is 262 properties that are rateable under this special charge. I'll have to get back to you about the second part of the question.
Mayor, yes, thank you. Thank you, Acting Director. Would you say that there is a low, medium or high percentage of active participants in the Traders Association? And were there any objections to this special rate scheme on offering tonight?
Through you, Mayor. I have to get back to you about the first part of the question. There were 2 submissions in objection to this special rate, covering 14 rateable properties, so about 5%, so 95% in support.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors for officers? Otherwise, we have a motion before us. Can I have a councillor move? Councillor Castaldo, and a seconder? Councillor McKern. Councillor Castaldo, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. We're in the second stage of the 3-part process in adopting the special charge scheme here. And we're receiving submissions for and against the charge, which goes towards managing the Heidelberg Shopping Centre. Of 262 traders we hear this evening. Council both contributes to this, around 100k, as does the traders. But during COVID, we have been covering both our contribution and also the contribution of the traders. Like the previous item on this agenda, Council needs to support our traders in many ways, and each trader needs to be supported in a different way. We need to keep all our shops active, and they will enable other shops to benefit from the successful shopping strip. We have received 9 for and 2 against from different property owners this evening, which is considered to be a positive reflection on past performance and success, and is a good indicator of the need for marketing support during a period of economic consolidation. As mentioned in my phone call earlier today to Pauline, who's the head of the who's the centre manager, that these supports have helped bring our traders together, and it's important that we continue to support our traders through this challenging time. And we will be receiving the 3rd part of this report on the 9th of August, where we will consider adopting this special rates charge for another 5 years. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor wish to speak? No? Councillor?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I much appreciate it. Yeah, just playing devil's advocate tonight, not meaning to isolate any traders association or shopping strip or any area of any municipality, namely because myself being the Bakewell Ward councillor with the Greensborough traders and also Watsonia traders, so some pretty high numbers of shops and traders, employment, etc. One of the things I think with the special rates scheme is something that actually helps traders in doing what they need to do to fund them in advertising, etc. One of the things that's been happening over the years, Mayor, is that not all business owners in a strip or in a shopping area are part of or an active member of the Traders Association. And for some reason, I think we've just accepted that some are running their business and they're too busy. But now's not a time, Mayor, that you are too busy in running your business. You're either in business to grow your business or you've got to get out of business as far as I'm concerned. Okay, there's no room for, and there's too much at stake to not be running your business effectively. I run a business myself, Mayor. I try and do as much as I possibly can working with other business associations, etc. So it's a no-brainer for me to be part of a traders association. So, Mayor, possibly just foreshadowing that in conversations that we do have coming up, we need to strike some balance between the amount of active participants in the traders to the Traders Association. So maybe I don't know, I'm sure it's not going to be 100% involvement from every trader in the Traders Association, but there has to be some limit, I think, that's met, and we're satisfied with that if we're going to continue funding hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars year after year after year to prop up these traders that don't necessarily want to help us in the decision-making process. So, Mayor, just foreshadowing that, because I know that the Watsonia Trading Precinct, the Greensborough Trading Precinct and the North will come under these types of agreements in the future. So when they do come up, I would like to be discussing those types of percentages and the involvement in the Traders Association. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak on this item? No, I'll put the motion forward. All those in favour? And those against? I declare the motion carried. We now move on to item 5.4, Ivanhoe Library and Cultural Hub Project Closeout Report. We have one speaker and a pre-recorded video will now play from Kevan Hill on behalf of the Banyule Ratepayers Action Group.
Kevin Hill, Ivanhoe. I speak on behalf of Banyule Ratepayers Action Group to oppose the adoption of the report on the Ivanhoe Library and Cultural Hub. It is correct to describe the construction works as complete, although Bragg notes that Council has provisioned $100,000 carried forward for 21-22 financial year. It is rhetorically incorrect to describe the construction project a success, given that the project costs exceeded Council budget by about $10 million, depending on which budget one chooses for base comparison. A project that runs substantially over budget is not a success. Council declares that it has delivered the project at a cost of $34.525 million and $259,000 under budget. To which budget is Council referring? Councillors from the previous Council will be aware of Bragg's strong interest in this project and has many questions over the past 4 years concerning the escalating projected cost of the library project. Bragg, at one stage in January 2019, estimated that the final cost would be $34 million, a figure publicly ridiculed by Council at the time. Now, Council happily tells us that our figure was correct. Since November 2016, when the local government minister and Council promoted the cost at $17 million, Council has promoted several different estimates and budgets for the project. The 2 minutes allowed by Council for making a submission preclude us from presenting full quantitative argument. Suffice to say, it is simply unfair to ask 4 new councillors to vote on a recommendation that provides virtually no history about the funding for this project. Bragg calls for an urgent external independent audit of the project. Councillors can reject this conveniently titled Closing Out Report and resolve to open the project to public scrutiny via external audit, including internal and external council communications and reports. Good governance and transparency are on public display. Thank you.
We thank Kevan Hill for that pre-recorded video. And I believe we have a recommendation with a couple of amendments. Looking for a councillor to move. Councillor McKern, and please take us through the amendments.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I'd also like to thank my colleague Councillor Melican for contributing these amendments. The amendment seeks that Council thank Croxon Ramsey Architects and Buxton Constructions for their excellent work, and that Council also thank and commends the Manager of Major Projects, Arun Chopra, and his team for their excellent work, attention to detail and careful budget management in delivering such a great outcome under budget. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Can we have a councillor second? Councillor Castaldo. Councillor McKern, do you wish to speak? Or before speaking, sorry, are there any questions of our officers? No? Councillor McKern, over to you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As John Wooden once said, good things take time, as they should. We should expect good things or rather we shouldn't expect good things to happen overnight. Much of the considerable thought, energy and time that's gone into the procurement of the very special Ivanhoe Library and Cultural Hub that we have today and enjoy today is due to the hard work of previous ward councillors, including Councillor Castaldo, the officers led by a very competent director, Jeff Glynn, and the many residents and community groups that informed its development. And I want to just touch on the history as it's been provided to me by the officers. Extensive consultation on the concept was undertaken in September 2016 till 2017. At every step of the project, community consultation was the key to enduring high levels of community participation and engagement. Opportunities for consultation were extensive and included feedback from over 1,000 people. The concept was approved by Council in late 2017 and had an estimated budget of $23.8 million. At this stage, no detailed design had started. During the detailed design, further consultation and various users of the facility were held to ensure that the project met the needs of the users, and particularly the Yarra Plenty Regional Library, who are the main user group of the facility. This resulted in a number of changes, including the maternal child health rooms, a changing places toilet, improved U3A space and art space, upgrade to the commercial kitchen, improvements to the community meeting spaces near the council chambers, removal of extensive asbestos throughout the building, refurbishment of the toilets near the council chambers, upgrade of the fire safety equipment in the centre Ivanhoe, and extensive accessibility features throughout the facility. Mr Mayor, this meant an increase of the floor space from 3,211 square metres to 4,752 square metres. The kitchen was also a major change, as the old kitchen was determined to be at the end of its useful life. It was extensively upgraded to substantially increase the size of the facility and meet current health regulations. So the cost of this upgrade alone was approximately $2.5 million. Also, while doing the works, extensive upgrades of the fire safety features throughout Ivanhoe Centre was undertaken to meet current fire regulations. All up, the budget allocation for the project was then $34,525,000. With all costs included, that does actually represent a cost saving of $259,000 compared to budget, and I commend all concerned. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Castaldo.
I'd like to thank, firstly, Alida for that thorough list of changes that occurred throughout the project. And the list of people involved in this project is extensive. I wasn't sure about acknowledging anyone in particular because it is so extensive. I'd like to acknowledge my fellow councillors and past ones, to the officers at many levels and contractors, and the ideas and time put forward by our key stakeholders and broader community. There are so many contributions that made this project what it is today and helped us deliver a successful project. The Ivanhoe Library has been a major project and part of Council's long-term strategy for many years, and was started well before my time, and finally opened earlier this year in the most challenging of circumstances and, as we know tonight, on budget. The project certainly has come a long way since the first version was conceived, and grown to meet the needs and desires of the community as a result of widespread consultation. While being designed, Council recognised the opportunities to upgrade and fix and improve many other aspects of the whole civic precinct in the Great Hall and the surroundings. It certainly is one of the jewels in Banyul's crown that will be much loved and put hard to work, and an extension worthy of the existing triumph of architecture that it is connected to, our very special Art Deco Town Hall. Banyule certainly can be proud of our civic heart, a place where our civic culture and the arts is encouraged to thrive. As with all major projects, it takes some time for the dust to settle, and I look forward to once again meeting in the upgraded Heritage Council chambers in Ivanhoe very shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Malacan.
Yeah, I thought I'd better say a few things, given that I've been on council the whole time this project was considered. And initially, I remember the initial discussions, it was all, and what those initial price estimates were based on was taking down the old library and basically rebuilding a new library in that exact same site. Nothing extra, nothing special, just rebuild the library to a contemporary building with decent access. And then through the good work, the advocacy and the determination of previous councillors, and particularly Jenny Mulholland, many items were added to that library. It became more than a library, it became an art space. And then the concept of moving from the hatch, the art space, into the new library was born. And that added a significant to the floor space and also the cost. And then the idea of the child health, the cafe, the theatrette, which I've been there a couple of times now, and the theatrette's been in operation and a huge success. And then, as other councillors talked about, the upgrade to the town hall, which then became required because we were actually touching an old building, and the shortfalls in the removal of asbestos, the fire system, the seating and the roof design, all sorts of things became apparent, and we fixed those as well. And we also took the opportunity to upgrade the kitchen to a state-of-the-art, magnificent kitchen that will service this community for a long time to come. And we also did the landscaping around the building. And I remember on the opening night there was a woman there from Ivanhoe Parade, just behind the library, who told me that when this was first proposed, she was opposed to it and hated the idea of building this other building in the front of her. Now she was completely wrapped and thought it added value to her home, and she was so happy with the outcome. And the only response I've ever received from any resident I've spoke to was what a great outcome it is for the city and something this council can be proud of. And as the report says, it is under budget and it is a magnificent asset to this community and something I'm quite proud of being involved with. And to say it's been overpriced is just ridiculous. We've added so much to it. I think it's a great outcome, and I'm very pleased to support this recommendation tonight. And I'd like to thank Arun Chopta because I think he's done a fantastic job.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Does any other councillor Neely?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to maybe repeat a little bit what my fellow councillors have said. It's an excellent civic precinct, the library space, the maternal and child health space, but also promoting arts and culture in the municipality. It's the perfect hub for that. And walking through the hub, it's clear to see that every nook and cranny has been well thought out, and that the consultation did happen with very different groups in the community, the youth, the library users, arts and culture. So not to go on too long, I just wanted to say how functional and aesthetically pleasing this hub is, and at the same time it's delivering essential and valuable services. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Neely. Councillor Champion.
Thanks, Mayor. I actually wasn't going to comment. I was going to leave it for everyone else, but there is something that I think hasn't been mentioned about this. We've spoken about how much this cost, dollars, and we've spoken about the size of it, the shape of it, and all the facilities that are provided by it. There is one thing here that hasn't been covered that puts all of the rest of this just to the back of the mind, and that's the human value that this building provides, not just the southern part of Banyule, but the whole of Banyule and other parts of the city as well. So this beautiful building provides spaces for human beings to meet, to interact, to entertain, to teach, to assess, to practice, to learn, to display, and other things. And in 20 years' time, 10 years' time, 30 years' time, 50 years' time, the dollars are not going to matter. And the point of this beautiful building is the humanity that it provides. So it's great that it's come under budget, but in the long term, the benefits that it provides to us as a community far outweigh that. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Champion. Any other councillor? Councillor Di Pasquale.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, well done, councillors. Look, this is a monumental moment. I think I was thinking about why do we need a closeout report. I mean, the Ivanhoe Centre's open, the library's open, so that's the end of it. But you know, the closing out report is. I think it's very fitting that Arun Chopra actually did write this report. He's been at the helm of many projects in our municipality, Mayor. This building, Watermark, the Ivanhoe Library. He's had his pencil and his pen across pretty much every project, and he has drilled them down by the millions, literally. I don't know whether we'll ever get a final figure of how many millions that man and his team has saved this community, ratepayers' dollars, with the negotiations that he went through with regards to these projects. One huge example was the fire rating issues that we had to address, or council had to address, with attaching a new building to the old building, Mayor. So we had certain plans, etc., and then it wasn't up to fire rating specs, etc., so they had to come up with revolutionary ways to address the fire rating issues between the two buildings, and he was at the root of that. So the amount of dollars that man and his team have saved this community, he needs a real big pat on the back. He needs a medal, quite literally. Now, so he wrote this closing out report, but we do need to understand, and he did write that it was conceived in 2014, Mayor, but I remember it was conceived well before then. Mayor, when we first got onto council, you and I, 2012, if we would walk into any of the council offices, be it in Greensborough, just across the way here, the old office there, the Rosanna office, the old squash courts, or the Ivanhoe staff offices where it was tacked onto the back of the town hall, any staff member could tell you that the line of progression that we want to go on is the offices, the Greensborough office, Watermark, Ivanhoe Library, Ivanhoe offices, bring everyone together and make sure that we do it was a 15, 20-year plan. And it was all done with no debt. So really tonight, I think, Tom Melican, you need a pat on the back because you're the only councillor who's sitting in this room who's still here from the very get-go. And we do need to commend previous councillors, McKenna, Mulholland, Brooks, Phillips, Briffa, all the ones that came before us. We've just been passengers along this whole thing. And finally, Mayor, we do need to do pat on the back to our previous CEO, Simon McMillan, for pushing that all the way through, our current CEO and directors, etc. So, yeah, it's an end of an era. What do we go into next, Mayor? If we ask ourselves as a councillor group, what's our next projects, the next 10 years, we'd probably be a bit questionable, a bit iffy. If we went back into the offices there and asked our staff, where are we going next as a council? What are our next projects? Where's the next 10 years? They'd probably be a bit iffy. So, this is monumental. And I think now the key to this council being successful going forward is us planning the next 10 to 15 years. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Any other councillor wish to speak? No? Look, I won't reiterate the comments that have already been made. I do think we have a lot of projects on the go, though, and I was looking at our CEO thinking there's plenty to keep us occupied, councillor. But I did want to pick up on one of the comments from our speaker about the request for an audit. I've consulted with the CEO, and I can disclose this, that the project was audited independently and externally by Crowe Helworth, our internal auditor. That audit report was tabled at the Audit and Risk Committee meeting of the 18th of June 2021. The Audit and Risk Committee is comprised of a majority of independent audit committee members, as per the Local Government Act. That Audit and Risk Committee unanimously accepted the report. We can't go into the details on that report, but suffice to say, from a mayoral perspective, it was a very solid report. And it certainly gave me and the fellow committee members a lot of comfort around the governance, management, overall custodianship of the Ivanhoe Library project. So for our speaker, and I really commend him for the work that he does in analysing and scrutinising council, and I really appreciate the position he's come from in calling for an audit. I'd just like to assure all those in the community this has been audited, and the audit report has been accepted by an Audit and Risk Committee. It is available to all councillors, and the minutes of our next council meeting will formally note that, and will formally note that it had been gone through the Audit Committee. So I hope that that gives us all a bit of satisfaction and comfort around the rigour that we apply. I recognise the comments of an esteemed colleague around saying that in 10, 20, 30, 40 years' time, no one's going to remember the cost, and I think that's true. But every year, VARGO comes in and looks at our accounts forensically, as they should, on behalf of the ratepayer and on behalf of the Victorian Government, and they do care. And I'm very pleased to say that this has gone through all those audit checks and balances, including VARGO being a representative on that Audit and Risk Committee. If there are any other speakers, or does our mover wish to sum up? No, in that case, I'll put the motion forward. All those in favour? And those against? I declare the motion carried. Our next item of business is 5.5, Rosanna Station Integrated Development Opportunity. We have two speakers. First up is Susan Martin, and an audio recording will play, followed by Carol McCall, and a written statement will be read out by Director Jeff Glynn.
Objections to the proposed 7-storey multi-use development in Beetham Parade. I've reviewed the Rosanna Urban Design Guidelines, December 2016. Aren't these guidelines relevant for building developments? Item 5.5 doesn't refer to Council's policies. Why doesn't it? In sub-item 6, if Council says the proposal is consistent with policy, why is there no mention of the Rosanna Urban Design Landscape Policy? Council's guidelines went through a community consultation process. Why then doesn't Council's submission reflect the views of the community? Why is there no reference to Green Village character, the wildlife corridor, the urban forest strategy, the climate action emergency plan? The December 2016 guidelines state preferred contemporary built form height of 3 to 4 storeys. Why isn't the height cap detailed in the policy not referred to in Council's submission? Where is Council's structure plan? The proposed 7-storey development and minimal on-site parking provision will impact parking at Rosanna Station in Beetham Parade and surrounding streets. If the Beetham Parade land is to be transferred from VicTrack to Banyule City Council, why isn't Council's position not considering or referring to Council's policies? Council's document doesn't refer to these policies. Considering the Council's submission into a state process, why then are the views of the community adopted by Council in the Rosanna Urban Design Guidelines, December 2016, not reflected or referred to in Council's submission? I request that Council refer to policies developed with input from the community be reflected in Council's submission in relation to this proposed project. Thank you.
The second submission is on behalf of Carol McCall. There is no mention of concerns in relation to the proposed building height of 7 storeys. On the contrary, point 6 states the proposal is generally considered consistent with local policy. Recommendations. There is no mention of challenging the building height of 7 storeys or the reduction in car parking requirements. How can 55 stackable car spaces adequately accommodate residents and visitors of 71 apartments without having an adverse impact on the surrounding street parking? Due to COVID, community has not had sufficient time to respond to the development proposal. An extension of time must be requested. In 2016, after submissions supported by petitions regarding the subject site, which was proposed to be 5 storeys, and the need for additional parking in the area, and as a result of many concerns expressed by myself and the community as a whole, Council agreed to support the overwhelming desire of community to maintain a maximum height of 3 to 4 storeys for a development in the Rosanna Village and this site in particular. The executive summary and discussion points in the agenda of Council meeting held 19th of December 2016 states, Council advocates to the LCRA and State Government to incorporate the principles in the adopted Rosanna Village Urban Design Guidelines, and commuter parking at the railway station and also in surrounding streets remains a concern for many residents with requests for review of current and future parking conditions. Many people in the community are not supportive of an increase in traffic volumes. Resolutions in the minutes of the Council meeting held on the 19th of December 2016 state, Council adopts Rosanna Village Urban Design Guideline December 2016 as amended following community consultation. Change wording to preferred contemporary built form height of 3 to 4 storeys. I ask Council, are you going to advocate to the State Government and stand up for the rights of Rosanna community and object to the proposed building height of 7 storeys? If not, why not?
Thank you for that, Director. Looking for a councillor to move, and I believe that with a few amendments. Councillor Malikan.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to move with Amendment A2. Oh, sorry, MM. Sorry. A 2-storey reduction in the overall building height achieved through the deletion of level 4 and 5. Another NN, note indicating there will be no gas connections. And a further condition in 6H, no connection of gas, and adding a point to 2B, encourage an excellent approach to achieving an environmental sustainable design outcome, including no connection to gas. I so move.
Thank you, Councillor, and looking for, or our Deputy Mayor, and looking for a councillor to second. Councillor Neely. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you. I've looked very deeply at this for a while. It has been a proposal for a while, and we knew when the LXRA did the change to the train line that there was a piece of land identified as a future development opportunity. And it is a good place to build a higher density apartment building. The issue is how high should it be, and there weren't included initially some shadow diagrams, but if you actually go and get some shadow diagrams, you'll find that this building will put a shadow over the residential homes of people in Beetham Parade between 9 and 10 on the 21st of September, the equinox, so the average day. So that means for half a year, these people will be in the dark for more than an hour in the mornings. Now, you could argue that that's reasonable within an activity centre, but these are residential properties. I also note that the overlay on their properties, they would be allowed to build 3-storey buildings. So, it's complex. Do you allow people to live in a higher density location, as we talk about parking and traffic, and living there that they have access to the trains and therefore as not dependent on its cars? Is that a good thing, or do we prefer building further out on the fringes of Melbourne where people's only choice is to drive? These are fundamental questions. But I went down and had a look at the Fairfield building. There was a similar building built on the corner of Railway Parade and Station Street in Fairfield, which was a 7-storey building that had zero parking. But Railway Parade is a very narrow street, and I was there just after lunch, and the shops across the road were still in the darkness then. Well, not darkness, but they were the shadow. And I spoke to a few people, and they thought it made the whole precinct darker because of the shadows cast. But then I also spoke to someone whose brother lived there who wasn't able to drive and was able to buy an apartment there because it was $50,000 less than a comparable apartment anywhere in Fairfield. And that was because they didn't have a car park attached to it. So there are certainly people, and many people, who would take the option of not having to buy a car park if they don't generally require a car park. So you've got to try and get that balance right. And I think if we reduce it, particularly by reducing it at level 4 and 5, it means that the top level will still be reduced, and therefore the shadowing across the road and into these residential properties will be reduced. But I just, and as for the question of stackers, I know people hate stackers and people don't use them, but they meet the parking and they meet the legislative requirements for parking. So as a council, we can't refuse them. But I just point out, I know the consultation hasn't been ideal, the timing hasn't been ideal. That's out of our control. This is a submission we're making to the state government process. I'm happy that the residents are also making submissions. But yeah, I think if we do reduce it by these two, provide this, we'll provide affordable living and affordable, comfortable living for people with the other conditions we've placed on. So I'm happy to support this with the reduction in level 2 levels of the building.
Thank you. Councillor Neely.
Just a quick comment. I think reducing the height by 2 levels in this recommendation will make a significant difference, and that's why I support it. Thank you.
Any other councillor? Councillor McKern.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to make a comment regarding the proposal in relation to neighbourhood character. While I appreciate the need for higher density development to offset the outward growth of Melbourne, I think it is important that we continue in all cases to regard development in sympathy with its surrounding area and desired character, both existing and future character. The subject site is part of the Banyule Neighbourhood Character Strategies Precinct Garden Suburban 3. The proposed development abuts a general residential zone across Beetham Parade. Buildings in this the adjacent commercial zone are 2 to 3 stories, and in the residential zone currently single-storey residents dominate. The statement in the strategy for the area's desired future character is that the area values low-scale residential character to be retained and enhanced by designing new dwellings and extensions in style sympathetic with existing dwellings in the precinct, maintaining the overall scale of the area, positioning new dwellings and appetences in keeping with the setbacks of nearby dwellings. Or I think in this case we can say commercial development. So with respect to future desired character, I think more work needs to be done on the design of this building so that it is more in keeping with the desired character of the area. And I think reduction of height is one way of doing this, as well to more articulation of the building walls. Currently, there is very limited articulation, and the building bulk is inconsistent with future character of the site. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Castaldo.
I think Councillor Milliken and Leader spoke quite well and covered most of the subject, but I'm going to give it a go. I'm also supportive of this development in principle, but scale is of concern. A 7-storey building did concern me considerably. Given the size of the surrounding apartment blocks and residential dwellings, I'm now comfortable with the amended 5-storey building being recommended, put forward by local councillor Tom Milliken. This now responds to the local character and would go a long way to overcoming concerns from the local community and reflects the Rosanna Urban Design Guidelines as spoken about by the Speaker's comments this evening. It is also highly important the future-proofing of this significant building for environmental design built fully electric, as retrofitting buildings such as this are very difficult and costly to align with the state government Zero Emissions 2050 plan. The amendment this evening provides me with confidence we have a future-proof building on its way if these recommendations are taken up by the state government. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor? No, I'll put the motion as amended forward. All those in favour? And those against? I declare that motion carried. Next item, 5.6, Major Transport Projects Update. And we have two speakers. A written statement on behalf of Michelle Jarvis will be read out by Director Kath Brackett, and that will be followed by a pre-recorded video of Katie George.
The Council recommendations regarding the Major Transport Projects update as published in the agenda are so weak as to be meaningless. They are an indictment on Council's failure to advocate transparently and strongly for Banyule residents, businesses and community. Re the North East Link. How and where has Council advocated for the community? I'm on the NEL Community Liaison Group and I see no evidence of it. Where is the support and complaints response for residents that Council promised months ago? Where is Council's seat at the design tables required of a Supreme Court mediated settlement? What is Council doing about repeated environmental performance requirements and failures? Now we have reports of a longer tunnel option. What does Council know about this and its implications for residents living near the interchanges and the TBM's launch site? How will Council be advocating for better community engagement and a better project? Why hasn't Council demanded action from CPB contractors and NELP to respond to the serious EPR breaches that impact livability and community health and wellbeing? There is no layer of assurance that EPRs are being properly monitored as evidenced by the watered-down independent environmental auditors report that was made public. 3. Re the Hurst Bridge line upgrade, it is very clear that LXRP Environmental Management Framework EMF standards are substandard. Local residents have stepped up to do the job that LRXP and Council should have been doing to protect federally listed species like the Eltham copper butterfly. This lack of rigour regarding project assessment planning is appalling. What has Council been doing to advocate for the Weir Street Montmorency to be properly integrated into the project and for Greensborough Station to have an integrated bus interchange? I hope the Council has learnt from its NELP failures to demand answers and to support local community value-add ideas for NELP, LXRP and for the Fitzsimmons Lane upgrade.
Thank you, Director. I believe we have an alternative recommendation, which we're... Oh, sorry. Lost track. I've got a video now from Katie George.
Katie George, Bullock Street, Lambert. I'm speaking again for the item. Banyule Council committed to active community advocacy for North East Link, including advocacy on behalf of Banyule residents and businesses regarding key items including a longer board tunnel, no tunnel boring machine launch at Bullock Reserve near Lambie, and a simplified light planting road interchange designed to reduce its footprint. The AG last night reported that the preferred bidder and design proposes a 2-kilometre extension of the proposed board tunnel to Yalambie Greensborough Road. This is an enormous win for the Banyule community and Council, but we have heard no details about the active community advocacy taken by Council on those key points since 2020, and there has been no ongoing community consultation with Council. Active community consultation and advocacy between Council and its community is vital to keep up the pressure on state government and bidder to improve the design further. We can push to extend the board tunnel as far north as possible to the Ring Road and save Watsonia, McLeod and Greensborough by significantly reducing the construction footprint and improve livability prospects for residents and businesses over the protracted build for 7 years or more. You only need to look at the Westgate Tunnel to get a taste of what we're in for. Community has no further avenue available to it to influence the final design, but Council does. This is the last opportunity that we can leverage to secure a longer board tunnel, the full length of Greensborough Road. While this is a state government project, make no mistake, Banyule is paying a much heavier price than other municipalities who stand to benefit, and we should be getting a much better outcome than we are. This does not happen without a fight. Please, Council, include a recommendation to urgently develop a community consultation framework that is active and campaign to secure the design and the improvements that we deserve and save Banyule from this horrific trench. Thank you.
Thank you to both of our speakers. Tremendously appreciated. I believe we have an alternative recommendation and looking for a councillor to move. Councillor Di Pasquale, and seconded Deputy Mayor Malleken. Councillor Di Pasquale.
Thank you, Mayor. Shall I go through it? For the benefit of the community who hasn't probably heard what's been going on over the last 24 to 48 hours. 1, notes the major transport project update. 2, notes the state government announcements of their preferred bidder, Spark, to design and construct the tunnelling package for the North East Link, and also revised scope of the Hurstbridge line upgrade, which reduces around 950 metres of track to the east of Montmorency Station to avoid impacts to the recently discovered Eltham copper butterfly habitat. 3, requests a meeting with Spark to further discuss opportunities to work collaboratively with Council and the community to comment on, contribute to and inform the design of the North East Link project and to discuss other benefits they can provide for the community. 4, receives a future report assessing the finalised concept design of the North East Link project when it is available later in the year, including comparison to Council's adopted North East Link transport advocacy list. I believe that's the final point, Mayor. 5, writes the Transport Infrastructure Minister and local state members of Parliament seeking the funding and delivery of the Greensboro Transport Interchange and a shared user path connecting Greensboro to Eltham as part of the Hurstbridge Line Upgrade Project Stage 2 to increase the transport improvement outcomes of the project and to compensate for the reduction in track duplication length. And 6, receives a further update on the Fitzsimmons Lane Upgrade Project when any new information becomes available. So moved, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. That's moved in the name of Councillor Di Pasquale and seconded Malleken. Councillor Can
I just ask for a further amendment to item 6 to a further report to update on any of these projects when any new information becomes available, instead of limiting it to Fitzsimmons Lane?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor, for that suggestion. I think that's reasonable. Yeah, I was just going to say whether we do it individually as a new item 7 or if we just... So receives a further update on any of the projects when any new information becomes available. Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, so moved, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor, and seconded Councillor Malleken. Councillor Di Pasquale, do you wish to speak on this item?
Yes, Mayor. How much time do I get? The only reason I asked that, Mayor, is because there are a few major projects thrown into the same basket here, and it would almost warrant that we would have an individual agenda item for each of them, but it is okay. We're just working what we've got this evening. Look, I think it's right. The speakers this evening, look, advocacy. I mean, we've been advocating for many, many years from the very beginning, the very get-go, with regards to a longer tunnel for the North East Link, train line duplications. One of the things, Mayor, that is significant of tonight's decision or proposed decision is the bus interchange at Greensboro Station. I think it is very responsible because we effectively have our train lines set. Now, they can be duplicated, but we're not going to be putting in any new train lines, for example, like how we get the extension of the train line up north, the South Morang line, the Middle Gorge stations, and all those stations going further up the northern suburbs. Our train lines are pretty much set, so we need the buses to be linking into the trains more. And the best way to do that would be to have a bus interchange at the Greensboro station. It was said that it would be part of the project many moons ago, but it was then not, and now we hope it could be again, because I think it is, and everyone in the community really agrees that it is a good idea. Maybe a good election promise coming up, who knows? Another thing that is needed too is advocacy with regards to the North East Link Tunnel. So now we're getting to the thick of it where, we're starting to get to more of the nitty-gritty with regards to the people who are going to be doing the work are actually starting to plan out that work. And they're probably saying that there might be a bit of a different option. So, this is Council's position. Council's position has been advocating for a longer tunnel. And as part of our other advocacy as well. So, Mayor, I just, just in my mind, these projects, even with regards to the Fitzsimmons Lane upgrade, these are massive, massive projects with huge environmental implications, traffic implications, movement implications of how we function. Look, I'm very positive, and I think not the announcement, but the bit of the rumblings that came out yesterday. If the state government can just be open to looking at any option, or entertaining other options, and not just have a closed book on these things, I think that would be very positive for the community. But yeah, we're going to continue to advocate hard as we have in the past too. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Malikan.
I will say a few things, starting with the North East Link. Yeah, the longer tunnel option has certainly been, we've advocated for that forever, but we've advocated to go all the way to Grimshaw Street. The state government appointed panel that oversaw the EES process actually agreed with council and recommended to the government that the longer tunnel option be chosen, but that was rejected. And now the preferred tender has come out and said the longer tunnel option is better because it preserves so much of our open space, it protects so many trees, it reduces the noise, and it actually provides a better outcome. It provides a much softer gradient so the trucks won't have to be struggling up that massive hill. So this is a very positive development. I'm very pleased to see this. Actually, I just hope that the redesign of the Lower Plenty Road interchange is now also considered, because if they're going to tunnel right underneath the Lower Plenty Road and continue on, then that could potentially change the whole Lower Plenty Road interchange. So very exciting news. And then we'll talk about the Greensborough to Eltham duplication, and it staggers me. It just staggers me that they can take out 950 metres of the duplication of the rail line and say it doesn't change the capacity of the line and it doesn't change the cost. That's just unbelievable. Like, why were they doing it in the first place? They're saying that it's because of delays and extra signalling, and I can't believe that if this has been scoped correctly, there must be enormous savings in removing 950 metres of duplicating rail lines, and that should be committed to the bus interchange at Greensborough. And they're talking about only 2 additional trains in the morning peak. That's 3,000 more people on a high-capacity train, and yet not one discussion about how those 3,000 additional people are going to gain access to the rail line. So a bus interchange would certainly address that, and same for the preferred the cycle path. And then the Fitzsimmons Road lane about never been justified, rejected by the community, huge waste of money, 1-lane bridge on one side, 2-lane bridge on the other side, and they're making it 4 lanes. So you really got to question the need for that project as well. So happy to receive this. Looking forward to further reports, and let's hope we can get some more wins for Banyule.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other? Councillor Champion.
Thanks very much, Mayor. The message I get from this report is that these projects, these major projects, are very much works in progress, and a lot of these discoveries, rediscoveries, variations to the original plans have come about in many ways because our communities are very vocal, they're very smart, and they are watching what's going on, and they want to participate, and they're not being listened to. And this was what happens when our communities are not being listened to. They become very loud and they find things. And as we've just spoken today, these are the things that are being found, which show that these projects are not going to go the way of the original plans. So simply, if I can just ask our communities to keep speaking, keep being involved, keep being interested, and keep us informed as well, that would be great, because we hear from you. We as councillors still are not being included, so thank you to all of you for helping us understand what's going on and giving us information. In my ward, I won't say I'm blessed, but 2 of these major projects are right in my ward, and I do hear my community very, very loudly. And one of the projects, the rail duplication, which we do support, has been modified very recently with the discovery of the Eltham Copper Butterfly community right next to the railway line. So this is one of the reasons that the project has been truncated slightly. So it's an ongoing process, and it's just a case of being in communication all the way and just revisiting each of the projects to create the best outcome, not only for the communities, but also the actual project themselves and the rest of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Champion. Councillor Mitsonikos.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I don't want to repeat on what everybody else has already said, but it was great news from The Age. There's lots of happy residents to hear that a longer tunnel could be proposed. And I also have a lot of residents who obviously want no tunnel boring machine at Borlase Ave. So, yeah, fingers crossed.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor wish to speak? Look, I'll make a couple of quick comments. First, just for those that are listening in from the traders and those that are involved in the Watsonia Town Square project. I know there's been some correspondence today with Councillor Di Pasquale and myself and the Chief Executive around a fourth option on the Watsonia Town Square, looking at the pylons and removing those electricity towers and a monopole option. The Chief Executive's advised that that will be considered through the consultancy process, and there is no need for us to reflect that in a recommendation this evening. So I just wanted to give that comfort for those that are listening in and taking an active interest in that particular project. With regards to this item and in particular the amendments that are put forward, and thank you in particular to our Acting Director of City Development, Jonathan Risby, for tremendous work that you and your team are doing in that space, and also in helping to craft our alternative recommendation this evening. Thank you very much. What's becoming apparent to me is that Banyule is doing a fairly good job of getting good outcomes on behalf of our community through good engagement with the state government. We secured, I think, in excess of $50 million in funding for a range of sporting clubs, community groups and community assets through the North East Link project. Councillor Di Pasquale is currently chairing the Watsonia Town Square project, a $6 million investment from the state government into a bike path and a town square at Watsonia. And through the extensive advocacy and work that we've done, it appears, at least from initial reporting out of The Age, that government is looking now at the long tunnel option. And I think part of the reason that we're having success as a council is that we are constructive with state government. Dialogue is there. I know that our CE meets frequently with the state MPs, and we have that dialogue. But also too, we're able to back up our positions with sound analysis and sound basis for what we're saying. So in regards to the longer tunnel option, I read in The Age that the Babenge report that this council commissioned was referenced, and it appears that the Spark, the preferred bidder, reflected on that piece of work. So what we're showing as a council is that by being disciplined, by continuing to press, by being open, by maintaining the conversation, by continuing to work with the community, we are beginning to chalk up these wins. And win by win, project by project, I think we are being able to shift these big state government projects in ways that will benefit the Banyule community in the longer term. Obviously now, as Councillor Di Pasquale pointed out, a big focus for us now is around that interchange, that bus interchange at Greensborough. And just like we have with all the other wins that we've recorded, I think we will put the work in, and we will do some of the analysis, and we will help to articulate that argument to government. That's about enough for me. I'm not sure if our mover wanted to sum up. Councillor Di Pasquale.
Mayor, just quickly summing up, thank you for your words, and just thank you. I think it's important for us to let the community know that since the election there were changes of ward boundaries which changed areas that we looked after or that we were allocated to. As an example, Bakewell ward then took into the Watsonia shopping centre area, which was your old ward there, Grimshaw ward. So what I need the community to understand is there's been no slowdown of working on advocacy in that area. You've been working very closely with myself to keep me updated with everything that has been happening over the last 10 or so years. You've been even at meetings, even on your birthday, where you shouldn't have probably been at meetings and you should have been spending time with the family. So you're fully committed. With regards to the Borlase area, Councillor Mitsonikos, we've been working closely together because the Borlase area was the border between Bakewell and Ibbott Ward as well, where Lower Plenty Road is. So we've been working really, really closely. So the community should know that the succession is there and we as a team are working well. And I think that's why, as you mentioned, we are getting some of these wins because we are consistent and we've been advocating for a very, very long period of time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for summing up, Councillor. So I'll now put the motion as, or the alternative motion as moved. I'll put that forward. All those in favour? And those against? I declare the motion carried. Item 6.1, virtual participation in meetings, a consultation paper. We have two speakers. One of the speakers originally requested to speak in person but can no longer attend, Mr. Roger Fife. And his statement has been provided to all councillors. And we thank you, Mr. Fife, for your statement, and we appreciate the feedback that you provided. But we have in attendance this evening Mr. Brian Grace. Thank you for your patience this evening, and please come forward to the lectern.
Thank you very much, Mayor. My name is Brian Grace. I'm Vice President of Good Governance Banyule. This is about item 6.1, a virtual meeting participation consultative paper. Firstly, I want to thank the Mayor, councillors and the Executive of the Banyule Council for allowing me to speak in person tonight within the context of COVID. I thank you very much. And that is my first point. The residents of Banyule expect all councillors will attend all council meetings. That's what we voted on. That's what we voted you for. We raise as a point of order, Mayor, that the due process has not been followed. You asked at the beginning of this council meeting where there were any conflicts of interest. Well, isn't this one? Councillors voting on their own interest to attend or not attend council meetings. Good governance calls on all councillors to hold ward meetings within the wards to ascertain from ratepayers how they should vote in regards to this matter. We believe this is the proper way to cover any conflict that may come out of this. The community attending council meetings needs to be assured their councillors will be attending council meetings to represent their interests. This proposal does nothing for good governance of Banyule as Banyule City Council. Please do not vote in favour of this issue. The community needs and wants greater representation. This proposal doesn't give them that option. This agenda item is called a consultative paper, and Good Governance Banyule asks what consultation has taken place so far. And I'm prepared to take any questions.
Thank you for that, Mr. Grace. Councillor Di Pasquale.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, thank you, Brian, for coming in and speaking tonight. So of the options that we're offered tonight, 1, 2 or 3 or A, B and C, which one would you suggest would suit the what our residents have voted us in for?
And that is a good question, Mark. I believe that we should have ward meetings to determine from the ratepayers what they want is 1, 2 or 3, rather than assuming that we know. Let's make a definitive answer based on what the ratepayers give back to us, because we don't know.
Thank you for that, Mr. Grace.
Thank you.
Councillors, we have a recommendation before us. I'm looking for a councillor to move. Councillor Neely. I will second as Mayor. Councillor Neely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just trying to think, 5 years ago, never would I have imagined that virtual meetings would be a thing. Or maybe even 1 year ago or 2 years ago. We've had to adapt to a pandemic very, very quickly as councillors. And, you know, even in other industries like teaching, for example, we've had to adapt and do things virtually. I prefer meeting in person above all else, and that's just I just wanted to throw that out there. But I understand that virtual meetings provide flexibility for people, accommodating families, making it on time after a long day, people with health issues, people with caring responsibilities, or people that have long distances to travel. You know, and that includes people coming to a council meeting to watch or listen. So of the options, option 2 provides flexibility virtually and giving people the capacity to organise how that would work. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor. Look, I'll make a couple of brief comments. So this paper arose as a late paper that was slotted in by council officers, arising from a local Government of Victoria consultation paper on virtual meeting participation. Local Government Victoria gave all councils a very short time frame of the 30th of June 2021 in which to provide their feedback. So as a council, we would ideally love to be able to run the sort of consultation process that our esteemed speaker, Mr Grace, has outlined in terms of being able to go out and consult. But quite frankly, we were restricted in doing so given the timeframes from Local Government Victoria. What we have, or what is before us tonight for consideration, are 3 options, which is one, an as of right for a councillor to be able to basically determined for themselves that they would like to be able to participate in any meeting or briefing virtually and not have to seek the permission of the Mayor or the Council. A third option, which would be to discontinue the opportunity for virtual participation altogether, or the second option, which is the one that we're putting or looking to put forward this evening, which would enable some continued form of virtual participation, but subject to provisions that would need to be clearly articulated in the local laws of the council. And then that would provide us as an opportunity as a council to explore the conditions under which a councillor could participate virtually in council meetings. And for example, one example that came up to me is a case where a councillor might be involved in an accident and injured their leg, and they might find it difficult to physically get in and out of the building for a couple of months. Virtual participation might be a mechanism for that particular council continue to do their job for the community by participating in remotely. But what I can assure the gallery and the public is that once the government forms a view on which option is likely to be presented available to the sector, whether it's options 1, 2 and 3. If it is option 2, and we then do go through the process of a council of having to update our local laws, there will be very extensive community consultation around it. And I do know that a number of councillors now have taken up on the opportunity themselves to run ward meetings, and they may seek to utilise those meetings to consult. My approach is that my door to the office is always open, my phone is always available, and I'm out and about in the community all the time and always ready, willing and able to hear feedback from the community. That's me. The only other councillors who wish to speak, Councillor Castaldo.
I'd like to thank the Mayor for giving us that detail and summarising the briefing paper as well. Not everyone reads the briefing papers and participates, but I know that he does thoroughly and he always contributes significantly. I'd also like to thank the officers for doing this quickly. It's a challenging time. I know I would have benefited from policy option 2, which we're putting up for adoption this evening. Twice, I think, in my last 5 years on council, I was sick and I couldn't make it for one reason or another. I think one was because I had a COVID test, so I couldn't come. Now, on both those occasions, I had items on the agenda that I wanted to speak to. I couldn't, but I wanted to. They were important subjects to me and to my residents, and I couldn't contribute. I had to relay that information back to my fellow councillors, and I think, provided some of that, but I couldn't tune in because we didn't have a video when we were having those meetings. Things change. We have to adopt. There's benefits to digitising, and I think this recommendation is very good. I'm fully supportive of option 2, and we'll continue engaging in the best way possible given the technology we have, and I look forward to the advancing of community participation in meetings into the future.
Thank you for that, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Malikan.
I'll support this recommendation tonight, but I think the default should be in person. I think in person you develop those relationships, it allows for greater discussion, it allows us all to have the same access to officers to find out the same information and background. So I think the default, and I think what our community would appreciate and expect, is that the default would be in person. But COVID's not over, and we still need to make decisions on items even during severe lockdowns. And if we look at what's happening in the state right at the moment, then there's real potential that could continue until people are vaccinated. That's the truth. That's the reality we face. But then, in defence of the government, these are not just for Banyule, these are for rural councils as well, and their circumstances are totally different. And it's quite difficult for some of these rural councils to get together and meet on a regular basis. So we have to consider that. But I think for Banyule, our residents would expect that default would be in person. And I think to allow us to meet virtually during COVID times is very reasonable. And if a councillor cannot attend in person on a particular meeting, we could give that consideration. But it'd have to be on a case-to-case basis. It certainly could not become the norm. It would have to be the absolute exception, and I would support that through our local laws.
Thank you for that, Deputy Mayor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Di Pasquale.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know, it's annoying taking this off and on. My ears are getting sore taking it off and on. I don't know how you're going, having to take it off every time you speak. Just quickly, Mayor, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting what the state government do make, which way they go with this, shall I say, what we have to adhere to. So we're just basically just putting in a bit of a here's our thoughts, but they're going to make their own decision anyway. But having said that, I mean, it's quite clear that some councillors take their job very seriously, and some councillors, man, I've seen many examples of that over the years. I've been to many other councils and watched many other council meetings and visited many other council laws, and some councillors don't take their job very seriously, and you can't make them do it. So we've had a good tradition of last many years of taking our job seriously, really supporting each other. But I would hope that we would have a situation where if one of our council members are ill or injured or something like that, I would suggest that the rest of the team has their back and they can get back on track and not have to stress about what is happening, what's not happening, being left out. Because I think from over a 4-year term, Mayor, it's like a marathon. There are times where you're cruising quite nicely, and there are times where you just get so stressed and you just have to, take a breather every now and then. So I just don't think it would be good to have a virtual option. If it gets to 4 o'clock, 4:30 of an evening, I'm feeling a bit tired, and I just want, I'll request just to stay home and have dinner and do my emails while I'm listening to everyone else speak. I think those councillors who are having that hard time need support. And I think we've been very good at that over the years, and I think we can continue that as Banyule, because we are a bit different to other councils sometimes, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak on this item? No, I'll now put that motion forward. All those in favour? And those against? I declare the motion carried. I believe our next item of business is the 7.1, proposed budget 2021-22 declarations. This item provides an opportunity for any councillors that may have a conflict in relation to items in the budget, in particular the capital items and the initiative items that are specified in the budget papers. We don't have any speakers on this item. and we do have a recommendations in our papers. Sorry, Chief Executive, do I just read out, do we just move the recommendation? Do I have to call for whether anyone? Okay, mover. So we're looking for a mover for the recommendation. Councillor McKern, and a seconder, Councillor Malikan. There being no conflicts declared, I'll put the motion forward. All those in favour? And those against? I declare the motion carried. Thank you. Item 7.2. This is for the adoption of the Revenue and Rating Plan for 2001 to 2025. Submissions, we do note that submissions for the next two items on the agenda were formally heard at the meeting of the hearing of submissions on the 26th of May, and there are no further opportunities for speakers. We have a recommendation on our papers and looking for a councillor to move. Moved Councillor Champion and seconded Councillor Malikan. Councillor Champion, do you wish to speak? Deputy Mayor? No? Any other councillor? Councillor Di Pasquale.
Mayor, it's quite interesting that nobody wants to speak on the rating strategy going forward over the next few years. Maybe that's because that in the past, councillors have had an opportunity to raise council rates huge amounts, exorbitant amounts. Some say too much. I mean, there's different councils under different pressures. I remember when you and I first got onto council, Mayor, we did raise the rates higher than what we are doing this current year now. And over the next 4 years to be raising it anywhere between 1.5% to 2.5%. And that is in line with CPI. Having said that, Mayor, I do have a question about CPI. I don't think that CPI is a good indication of how costs are going. I'm just looking at the ins and outs of my business, looking at the ins and outs of my home. They're going up much, much higher than 2%, 2.5%. So, and I don't know, I implore other residents to look at their own outgoings as well, and just let me know if they're staying at 2%. I want to know where you're getting everything from, because I can't find food, fuel, resources for those low amounts of CPI. So whether that comes back and bites us in the years to come, and we have to make alternate choices with regards to the rates, I'm not sure at the moment. We'll just wait and see. But for the next 4 years, it's looking quite comfortable. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Castaldo.
I wasn't planning on speaking, but look, there's a couple of items in this agenda item in the report that I'd like to speak to. One was around one option that a resident put forward to us to consider what the benefit is of vegetation on private dwellings to the broader community. And often community put forward ideas to us, and sometimes it's just disregarded without further conversation and deeper inquiry, and I think this is one of those, and I look forward to raising this further in the coming year as we discuss our urban forest strategy. Another part to this, there was some recommendations around the waste charge, waste levy. Council had significant conversations around this subject matter, and it was quite complex and had multiple meetings around this. So each one of these agenda items, Council thoroughly discusses in detail. And it's not what all of us wanted, what we landed on, but as a council here, we have to work together and we come to a thorough conversation and discussion. And while I don't like every aspect of our rating and charges strategy, I'm supportive of it in principle, and so tonight I will be voting in support of it.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? I'll just make a brief comment to note that although this is covered in the budget as part of this year's rating approach, and we'll just re-emphasise it again like we did with the draft budget, Council is offering weights waivers, so $500 off the rates for those that are on job seeker and $250 off the rates for those that are experiencing other forms of financial hardship. And I do want to point out, and we acknowledge the efforts earlier of Councillor Castaldo, but just the advocacy internally here, Councillor Peter Dimalaris, for implementing that and making sure that that is part of our adopted budget, the Waste Rover program. It's quite interesting that when we were having the conversation 3 months ago, we looked to be moving out of COVID and even having internal questions around whether or not that form of ongoing assistance was required. Well, if we look now and the challenges that we've recently faced in Victoria and across the nation, I think having a mechanism now where we can continue to provide that rate relief for those who need it is good, sound decision-making from the council. And in fact, even today, Councillor Dimalaris and myself received an email from a resident in his ward needing and seeking the support. So I'm really pleased that with our rating plan, coupled with the second year now that we're offering a Waste Rover process, we're getting the balance right between having good income come in and offering the targeted relief for those in our community who may really need it. Does our mover wish to sum up? If not, I will then put the motion forward. All those in favour? And those against? I declare the motion carried. The next item of business, 7.3, the adoption of the Banyule City Council budget for the period of 2021-2025. And before we consider the item, Mark, you've got something special for us.
Thank you, Mayor. As it is tradition at Banyule City Council, I do a quick budget presentation just to cover off on the highlights of the budget. And as you alluded to before with the rating plan about the budget and the challenges around the council as well as the community, and this budget again addresses those challenges. In terms of the operating surplus, we've now moved from a deficit back into surplus after a tough year or a tough budget for 2020-21. And the operating surplus is forecasted to be $14.58 million. However, when we take a underlying deficit look at that, which is the removal of the capital works contributions, we're still in a deficit situation, which is still quite a challenge for council. Having said that, we still were able to continue to invest significant amount of funds from council's cash into capital investment. And as you can see there, total capital investment for the 2021-22 budget is $66.75 million. Also, in line with our longer-term plan to reduce debt, we're able to pay down a further $10.26 million from our loan portfolio, bringing the balance down to $20.8 million in total debt as part of that debt reduction program. And we're taking the opportunity to pay down a significant sum in the budget, which still leaves council in a strong cash position. And the forecast cash position at the end of the year is to be around $80 million, all the while making sure that our VAGO financial sustainability ratios remain healthy as part of that whole budget. Just a reminder of that council deliver over 100 quality valued community services. There's just a little bit of a snapshot there of where most of the money is spent through council's operating budget. As you can see, they're mostly on the waste management, cleansing and infrastructure, followed by leisure, recreation and cultural services, parks and open space, youth and family services, health and aged community planning, delivery and assets to deliver that capital program, planning and building department, transport and also economic development, municipal laws and city futures, just to name a few. When we break down the budget, and as you can see, the council, as most of the community we know, was heavily reliant on rates, and that hasn't changed. However, we've stuck with the 1.5 rate cap, as Councillor Di Pasquale mentioned before, in line with the state government rate cap, which does provide challenges when you talk about costs increasing above CPI, and certainly that's the case for local government. What we've been able to do also is to minimise fee increases, and a significant amount of fee increases are going to stay at this year's levels, in fact the prior year levels, just in support of the community, and particularly around those fees that are paid by the community members and community groups, which has been the hardest hit during this financial year. And what we're seeing now is the ability to recover some of those fees and charges from those services that are starting to return back to full operation. However, that may take a couple of years to recover back to levels or prior to the COVID-19. And as the Mayor mentioned, that rates hardship help is still available in the budget for next year. Just looking on the expenditure side, obviously a service-driven organisation with the majority of the cost being employee costs, followed by contracts. And as I mentioned there, in terms of the highlights, that economic support of 1.5 million, which is in the form of rates waivers, but also some support for local businesses as well in terms of grants, as well as local campaigns. Council will continue to implement the Climate Action Package in a number of ways, including some vehicle charging stations, a continuation of solar panels, batteries, also building efficiencies, and also the LED street lighting as well as a significant investment in that type of infrastructure as part of that Climate Action Package, and also putting a dedicated resource into advocacy, particularly around transport, as well as part of the budget for next year. In terms of capital investment, I've mentioned the $66.75 million, and that's to support the renewal of Council's $1.7 billion worth of assets, and of that $67 million, $43.29 million is actually going into asset renewal, which represents almost 65% of the total capital expenditure. As you can see there, a significant investment in buildings for the year, roads, footpaths and bridges, $15.26 million, motor vehicles, $5.95, $10 million on parks and gardens, plant and equipment around $7 million, drainage and irrigation around about $1.5, over $500,000 on playground renewal, and $5 million in terms of IT investment in digital transformation is another significant investment for the benefit of the community as well. And some highlights there as far as individual projects. Balfour Community Hub at a total of $14.5 million. The Olympic Park Master Plan, $7.5 million over 2 years. The Darebin Creek Trail, $2.6. The Food Organics, Green Organics bin service at $3.83 million. Footpaths replacement, as I mentioned earlier on tonight, at $4.1 million. And individual projects there with Beverley Road Oval resurface of $1.35 and Redmond Court Wetland of $1.3 million. And that's all for tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much for that, Director. Really appreciate that. Probably don't leave much for us to say, but that's fine. That's the point, so we don't get it wrong. So we've got a recommendation with a couple of additions and looking for a councillor to move with those. Councillor Neely, and will you take us through those additions?
Thank you. Edition 5, Council note the inclusion of $100,000 for community safety initiatives that specifically address improving community safety in public places. Number 6, Council commit to matching state government funding to construct an additional hockey pitch at Cyril Humans Reserve in Belfield, and the rest as is.
Thank you, Councillor. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Malikan. Councillor Neely, do you wish to speak?
Well, not to repeat the great report from Mark Giglio, the budget being well balanced not only includes the financial hardship support in relation to COVID that we all mentioned over and over, because we're still grappling with the changes in our lives being virtual and you know, thinking of the businesses and traders having to adapt with parklets. It's just changed our whole, you know, it's affected a lot of council services. So I just wanted to point that out. And the fact that it delivers still to all our infrastructure, community facilities, open spaces, preserving neighbourhood character, means it's, you know, we're not leaving things out, we're doing things strategically. Also considering public submissions. So the budget outlines really well how resources are allocated, as well as programs, services and capital works. Thank you. Hopefully it was brief.
No, well done. Thank you for that, Councillor. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. I'll just say a few words and I'll probably repeat what's already been said, but I think this budget does support those being impacted by COVID, and I think that's a real commitment by this council, but it also commits to action on climate change. And we're talking about the PPA we talked about before and FOGO, but then it's action on climate change, but it's action that'll actually save us money in the long run. So I think that, you know, you'd be stupid not to do these things. But it also supports people into work who would not have gained work otherwise. It also supports local jobs through many of our projects. It's action on fixing the footpaths and the drains, and we looked at some of our major projects from Belfield and Olympic Park and Rosanna Library. But then I just point out that, as we've talked about before, there wouldn't be a house in Banyule that hasn't increased by $100,000 in the last year. And if you look at the average rates, $2,500, it means that price increase would pay your rates for 40 years. But in saying that, then we've got to think about the people that are still struggling. And there are many on insecure work, people that are renting, some business owners, some traders, low-income people and pensioners who, are, you know, their share prices are down, or they have been, their dividends are down, their interest rates are down. But particularly the young people, they're the ones that I think will long-term be the real losers from this COVID, and they're the ones we need to support. But then we've held our fees down, and we've looked at operation efficiencies. We have continuous improvement, the digital transformation. But most of all, I'd just like to thank the staff for their support. You know, some councils going to the budget is painful. It is painful enough, but I think with the support of our staff, it's less painful. But I'd also like to commend and congratulate our new councillors who have really approached this with a great deal of courage. It is difficult, but real support for each other, real commitment to each other, and worked very well together. And I think we could be really proud of ourselves as a group of councillors to come to such a great budget, but in a very collaborative way and a very friendly and working together very well way. So very pleased to support this tonight and congratulate to my fellow councillors on their efforts and their good work.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other councillor? Councillor Mitsonikos.
Thanks, Mayor. Local government has an important role in promoting and uplifting community safety through enhancement of the built environment, natural environment and social connectiveness, taking a proactive, place-based approach and understanding the unique factors that influence local spaces. It's great to see the inclusion of the $100,000 in the budget for increased community safety initiative that will enhance our work in this space. This increase of funding will support two major projects, the first being Your Ground Crowd Mapping Project. This project asks women and gender diverse people to pin locations on a map online where they'll feel safe or unsafe. The project was designed by the XYX Lab at Monash University. They are a team of experienced researchers exploring gender-sensitive design practices and theory. This data will provide a significant evidence base of lived experiences of safety within Banyule and neighbouring municipalities, and will be used to inform future projects and upgrades in our parks, open spaces and public space within the municipality. The second is the livability tool data. These tools are designed to gather evidence on people's lived experiences of a place's character, the community, economy, environmental sustainability, housing and development, management, safety, movement, open space and social facilities and services. The data is then accessed by Council through tools such as the online neighbourhood livability platform, which allows officers to extrapolate data to gain clear insights into priorities for respondents and translate it into an integrated place-based response. It encourages an integrated approach to placemaking, taking into consideration the lived experience of community members. It centres people in what has been a traditional infrastructure-driven practice and encourages council to make spaces that fit the people rather than requiring people to fit the spaces. Both of these data set tools will assist council in its planning of great spaces and places, ensuring community safety is at the forefront of all that we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor. Does any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Castaldo.
I'd first like to thank all my fellow councillors for contributing throughout this process, and particularly the Mayor, who's been very supportive to all of us to help us bring forward initiatives that our community are coming to us with. I'd also like to thank the staff that provide the significant, robust process to make sure that we push our funds in the most appropriate directions and achieve the best we can for our council. I'm also thinking that it's very important to identify that while at state and federal level they're running up significant budget deficits that are going to put us in trouble long term into the future, us as a local council is really positioning us and our residents in a very good position to continue to provide resources and services that we can be proud of and keep us in line with sound economic management. So I'd just like to say that I think it's very important that council provides a lot of these services. Private enterprise is good in some areas, but local government is absolutely critical to providing so many other services. And if you go on the council website, you can find there's over 100 services we provide, and trying to balance the books and provide all of those is a challenge. So thank you to everyone that participated in getting us to where we are today.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor wish to speak? No? Look, I'll make a few brief comments. So tonight we've been able to acknowledge the role and contribution of a few councillors on different items, and I just wanted to acknowledge the work of Councillor Mitsonikos in bringing to this council our focus on community safety, and in particular for women in our community. So thank you for that work. Thank you for getting it or helping to reaffirm the importance of that on our agenda and doing your work to get this into the budget. And I think that reflects the benefit now of our more diverse council and the outcomes of that, and the fact that we're getting these things on the agenda and driving good outcomes for our community. So thank you and well done for that. Secondly, I know that a number of clubs reached out to me as a mayor more recent times with that lockdown and the financial impact that that has had on you. We've not reflected that in tonight's budget, but please rest assured we have heard the message, and our Chief Executive has, and we'll be looking to bring a report back to this council around the support that we can provide. Third, Mark, thank you for your work and your leadership of the finance function here. Thank you to Tanya O'Reilly, a very talented manager doing great work. And thank you also to Michael Fan. So Michael had the privilege, I hope it was a privilege, of sitting through all those budget meetings, and he did a really good job. So, you know, across 3 levels in the finance function there, we're seeing really good quality talent and ability, and that's helping us to deliver the great budget that we're seeing. So thank you, Mark. Please pass on our appreciation to your team. And finally, at least Mark and the other councillors left out one figure that I get to say, and that is that this budget will deliver 400 local jobs in the Banyule community. So we said when all of us got elected, and in our first commitment as a council, we said we were going to help rebuild this community and move forward from the pandemic and make sure that we were delivering infrastructure and services and supporting our community and delivering jobs. And so with this budget tonight that we approve, that we basically sign off as a council, 400 jobs now being created right across this city. That's 400 people paying their mortgages, 400 people that are getting, some will be their first job, their first apprenticeship, 400 jobs in this local community delivering long-term infrastructure and benefit. I just wanted to celebrate that and thank the whole council for our work together in achieving that outcome. So with that, I'll now put the motion forward. All those in favour? Those against? Declare it carried. Our next item of business is item 7.4, the 2020 Banyule election report. There are no speakers, and I'll be looking for a councillor to move. Councillor Malikan, and seconded Councillor Neely. Councillor Malikan.
Yeah, I'll say a few words on this. It's good to see the turnout was massively increased and well above the state average, and also the number of informal votes was well below the state average, which was great to see. Still not really convinced attendance versus postal, but if you look at the discussion leading up to the election last year, there's lots of discussion about whether the government should delay it because of COVID. I think the right decision was made because I think during the COVID time we did need that certainty, and by having those elections we provided that certainty. Postal, and I still do love attendance elections for some strange reason. It's a lot more work, it's a lot harder, but you do really engage with people during that process. So I know we probably won't go back to them, but I just thought I'd say that. And did we get the right people? Well, if you look at tonight's agenda, there's some massively significant items on this agenda. The most people spoke was about an item where they wanted us to spend more money on a community facility. And we've just passed the budget and our rating plan, and no comments from the general public, nothing. So does that mean they don't care about anything? And I'm sure everyone does, but it just shows you the level of trust I think the community has in us. And I think because our behaviours, what we say, what we do as people goes a long way to that. So I think the community, I don't want to say that they got it right. We'll know that in another 3.5 years, but I think the community does normally get it right. And I think in this case, and then I've just come back from the Australian Local Government Association, and lots of our councils right across Australia talked about the infighting, the division, the hostilities, the flip-flopping on decisions, the bullying of staff and all these sorts of things. And I just think we just don't get any of that at Banyule. And we treat each other with respect and dignity, and we come to the best decision most of the time. And I think that's a real credit to the people of Banyule that they identified good people to put on council. And then as councillors, we act responsibly and in the best interest of the whole city, not just ourselves. So it's an excellent report. I might be prejudiced or biased, probably am, but I think it is a good report, and I think the community actually got it right, and I think they always get it right. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Neely.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Living in a democratic country, people 18 years and over that can vote should vote, and as Councillor Malikan said, more people voted at this election than the previous. So the previous election it was 68%, and this last election in 2020 was 84%. And look, it should be 100%. Running for council, one of my biggest phone calls was, I haven't received my electoral, I can't vote, it hasn't come in the mail. Can you get it for me? It's like, no, you need to get organised beforehand. So, just encouraging people that are not on the electoral roll to look that up well before. But I'll keep it brief. I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor? No? Well, we'll put that motion forward. All those in favour and those against, declare that motion carried. Item 7.5, record of councillor meetings. There are no speakers, but I understand that we do just need to call out a few minor amendments, which I'll do, and then we'll look for a mover. Just on the conflict of interest, it was item 6.1, Ivanhoe Sports Precinct Plan, and item 2.1, where Councillor Peter Di Morales declared those conflicts. So looking for a mover with that recommendation as amended, Councillor Di Pasquale, and a seconder, Councillor Champion. All those in favour?
Yeah, if I may just make a comment, please.
Yes.
Just letting the community know that with point 2, the Watsonia Town Square reference group is meeting, and also just letting the community know that the Shaping Banyule site for that is open. So anyone who has any input into the Watsonia Town Square, please go to Shaping Banyule and put your input there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor. Any other councillor wishing to speak? No? Put the motion forward. All those in favour and those against, I declare that carried. Next item of business is general business, I believe. Might kick off with Councillor McKern. You have an item for us?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I've got a few items, but I'll start with the first. The drop-in session I held on Friday the 25th of June, Friday just gone. I was pleased to hold my second drop-in and meet the councillor session at the Ivanhoe Hub. It was a cosy session, and I had chats with 8 residents. It's a wonderful opportunity, actually, and I must say I'm really enjoying these sessions because they're relaxed, they're informal, and that vibe does affect itself too in residents, where they can just sit and have a cuppa and talk about various council matters. So just to give you a sample of the sort of comments received, the parklets on Upper Heidelberg Road, Kathy said that she liked the parklets, but that something needed to be done to improve sight lines from the Hub car park crossover when exiting and doing a right turn into Upper Heidelberg Road, because one of the marquees that a trader had installed made it hard to see. So that will be taken on board and given to our transport team to address. David raised concern about the lack of landscape to the nature strip on the boulevard between Waterdale Road and Clark Street, and wondered whether council could take that on as a beautification project, as they did planting out the island border at the south end of Waterdale Road at the corner of Reedsdale Road, which he highly commended as a beautifully planted site. Another resident wanted to know more about 173 Upper Heidelberg Road and the planning application, as he hasn't had any feedback or follow-up to his objection. So that's a snapshot of the sort of comments that I receive and then follow on with the officers to respond to. For those interested, my next drop-in session is scheduled for Friday the 23rd of July, again from 12 to 1:30, and I'll either be at the Hub's Cafe or in the Hub's community space. So if you're thinking to come along and you're gathering your questions, just ask at customer service near the building's front entrance, and I very much look forward to meeting you. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Neely.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to draw attention to World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. It is acknowledged every year on the 15th of June, which has just passed, a day to highlight the devastating impact of elder abuse. For those of you that don't know, elder abuse is defined as any act which causes harm to an older person and is carried out by someone they know and trust, like a family member or a friend. The abuse can be physical, social, financial, psychological or sexual, and also includes mistreatment and neglect. During Victoria's lockdown, older Victorians were more likely to be physically harmed or suffer financial or emotional abuse from relatives than ever before. So as part of this year's Elder Abuse Awareness Day, Banyule Council has been encouraging residents to check in with the older members of their network to make sure they are safe, healthy and happy, and know that they can come to you if they need help. For anyone who may need further information, Senior Rights Victoria is a fantastic organisation which provides information, support, advice and education to help prevent elder abuse and safeguard the rights, dignity and independence of older people. So sorry, it's a quite heavy, sad issue to draw light to, but it's essential. This organisation offers a free confidential helpline with full details, and this is listed on Banyul's website, so please check it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Neely. Councillor or Deputy Mayor, I believe you have an item.
It's a bit of a sad item, I'm afraid to say. Tonight, I'd like to acknowledge that tonight will be the last night of Jeff Glynn at this council meeting, the Director of Asset and City Services. And sorry to disturb you over there, Jeff. I know you're just enthralled and just can't wait for the end of the meeting. But because he will finish with council on Friday, which is... So after a considerable amount of thought, Jeff has decided to call time at Banyule, to get his work-life balance right, to spend more time with his family and to have a bit more me time. Jeff has been a great asset to Banyule and an integral part of the executive team over the last 7 years. Some key highlights of Jeff's time at Banyule include the critical oversight of the development and the completion of the council's 1 Flintoff Street building and the relocation process of staff, which is this building we're in now, which has been extremely successful, and I know staff really do love working here. The redevelopment of the Ivanhoe Aquatic Centre, the planning and development of the new Ivanhoe Library and Cultural Hub, many revitalisation programs of open space such as Olympic Park, Malahan Reserve, Ford Park and other sporting clubs, including club rooms, lighting and playing fields, management planning and oversight of the Council's capital work program, the recent decision by Council to move towards with the implementation of FOGO, food and organic collection services, management of the 2 depots, the management of essential staffing, maintaining Banyule's assets, buildings, open space infrastructure and cleaning, assistance to make Banyule the place that is loved by its residents. Development of the Banyule Towards Zero Space strategy. You still with us, Jeff? Key leadership roles in the EA negotiation, critical cost department project steering groups and strategic intent and intentions for the organisations. The oversight and management of the Council's $1.6 billion assets and community infrastructure. Lead management roles in the development of the new Belfield Community Hub. And don't forget the wonderful stint as the acting CEO for 6 months during the period of 2019, which I think you actually did an excellent job as well. Jeff has always been a great supporter of staff and support programs within Banyule. He's helped establish great relationship and provide ongoing support, mentoring and coaching of many staff members. In 2019, Jeff was awarded the Municipal Engineering Foundation of Victoria's Cecil Culkin Award, which is awarded to an engineer who has provided outstanding service within local government. It is another example of Jeff's great work and his respect within the local government sector. And from a councillor's perspective, I'd like to thank Jeff for his frank and fearless advice, his friendship, the fact that you could always rely on Jeff, no matter what the situation or the pressures we were under. He was always positive, he always provided options, and he always understood the pressures that councils were under. And that greatly assisted and really made our roles much easier and made the council function a lot better. So I'd like to thank him for his dedication, his support and his hard work and commitment. So if you wouldn't mind, I think we should put our hands together and wish Jeff the best for the future and for his contribution to the family, which is the City of Banyule. Thank you, Jeff. You going to ask him a question there?
No, thank you for that, Deputy Mayor. Very well said. And I think we all look forward to joining you on Thursday, Jeff, to say a farewell. And I do just personally want to highlight the period of Jeff's time as the acting chief executive. That was a very tricky time for the council, and it was navigated it superbly well. And to have someone of the depth and seniority and experience that we could draw in immediately to fill that role is something that I'm tremendously grateful for. And I know the whole council that is a gap that will be there now. We were very blessed to have someone of that leadership capability that could step into that role at any time. So thank you in particular, Jeff, for leading us during that period. It really has helped us to continue to set up for success. Any other general business? Councillor McKern.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to take this opportunity to talk a bit about the Ivanhoe Sports Precinct Plan because it's an important project. I think it was mentioned earlier, possibly by Councillor Melican. What are some of the current projects some of the current big projects we're working on? This is one of them. Councillors were recently invited to attend the Ivanhoe Park Croquet Club. A number of us attended, including Councillors Garotti, Castaldo and Melican. Never having played croquet before, we were treated to some first-class lessons and play by Club President Barry Dowling and Club Treasurer Kevin Ryan. Councillors Garotti and Castaldo caught on quick and managed to just beat Kevin and I by a marginal 7-5 points, if that's what they're called in croquet. We'd like to thank all the club members for their warm welcome and morning tea on the Sunday morning. I mentioned the Croquet Club for its part of the planning of the Ivanhoe Sports Precinct Plan. It is one of the clubs that has been a considerable stakeholder amongst many, and I do wish to bring the public's attention to this plan, which identifies current and future needs of existing sporting clubs and community in the Ivanhoe and East Ivanhoe areas in particular. The plan aims to consider future population growth and changing demography and respond in terms of what are the appropriate sporting and community facilities and opportunities that will be of relevance to this area in the next 10 years. Public submissions and comments are being received until 19th of July. There's this very cute DL flyer floating around. You might find that in some of the community hub areas like Ivanhoe Library and Community Hub. And for more information about the plan and your ability to contribute to it, you're asked to visit Shaping Banyule, where you'll find it's one of the current projects and easy to access information and contribution methods. So I actually find the easiest way to access Shaping Banyule is to Google it. So plenty of time yet till the 19th of July, and we look forward to receiving as many public comments as possible. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. I don't believe there any other general business.
Just one more, a quick one.
Quick.
Yeah, it's a quick one, and it's an important one. It's about World Refugee Day, which falls on the 20th of June. World Refugee Day is an international day designated by the UN to honour refugees around the world. It celebrates the strength, courage and resilience of people who've had to leave their home and loved ones to escape from conflict or persecution and then rebuild their lives. In recognition of World Refugee Day, the Banyule Council is hosting 2 art exhibitions featuring the work of 3 local Banyule artists who have been refugees. They are Phuong Ngo, who has put together an exhibition called Adrift from the Fall. As said, she is a local Vietnamese-Australian artist, and the other is called Place by Avan Anwar, who is Kurdish, and Shah Sawari, who is Afghani. These exhibitions are on from 19th of June to the 1st of August for Place, and also 1st of August from Adrift from the Fall. But the exhibition opening is on this Friday night, the 2nd of July, from 6 to 8 p.m. In the 2 gallery spaces at the Ivanhoe Library and Cultural Hub. I'll be there and look forward to seeing you all. Thank you, and thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. That concludes general business. So public questions, just want to notify the gallery that we've received 8 public questions. These questions will be included in the minutes of this meeting, which will be available on the website later in the week. In accordance with Section 22A of the Local Government Act, the meeting will now be closed to members of the public for consideration of one confidential matter. May I have a councillor move and second for us to close the meeting to members of the public prior to considering this confidential item at 11.1. Councillor Champion moved, Councillor Neely seconded. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. Our next ordinary meeting of Council will be held on Monday the 19th of July 2021. I'll now adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes at 10:10 p.m. and thanking all for attendance, including those who came here this evening and those who have participated from home. We thank you sincerely for your participation.